Chapter 4088. Seeing Wan Wuxin's worry and panic, Xiaohua shook his head and said with a smile, "It's not that I don't believe you. I just feel that my cultivation hasn't reached the level where I can fight against the Demon Emperor. Moreover, I have to face 500,000 demon soldiers, so I'm a bit hesitant." Xiaohua's words were very honest, far from the hypocritical excuses of an ordinary senior. This made everyone feel more at ease. A cultivator said with a smile, "Senior, please rest assured. In fact, although there are only a dozen sects in the southwest border, there are millions of disciples. However, there aren't many experts in these sects, so it's difficult to resist the Demon Emperor. Senior defeated a dozen demon monarchs before. Although your cultivation isn't as high as the Demon Emperor, I'm afraid it's not much different. The heads of the 10 sects, plus Senior, should be able to hold on for several days." At this time, the news of the Demon Emperor's attack on the southwest border has already spread. In a few days, the disciples of the 3 great sects and other sects will come to the southwest border. "Senior, you just need to delay until then." Wan Wuxin. Xiaohua nodded slightly, raised his hand and said, "Give me your jade slip, I want to make a copy." "No problem, Senior, please." Wan Wuxin hurriedly handed the jade slip to Xiaohua. At the same time, several other disciples hurriedly took out different jade slips from their spatial rings and handed them to Xiaohua one by one. They all seemed to be jade slips that recorded the demon race's language. After Xiaohua made a copy of these jade slips, he looked at them slightly and said, "I'm going to the southwest border. Is there a transmission array that can directly go there? Which disciple is willing to lead the way for me?" "I'm willing." Not only were the disciples of the 10 sects enthusiastic, Wan Wuxin, Yu Mingxin and Yu Changming also flew in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at Yu Mingxin and Yu Changming and said with a smile, "You two don't need to go. You've just escaped, so you should hurry back to the fragrant religion. Bring the southwest border matter back to the sect, and also my apology. When I return from the southwest border, I will pay a visit to your sect master." Yu Mingxin seemed to insist, but Xiaohua shook his head at her and said, "Moreover, Miss Yu's profound qi was damaged, so you must go back and recuperate. Otherwise, wouldn't my pills be wasted? If you still want to have a head full of white hair, you can follow me to the southwest border." Yu Ming Xian stuck out her tongue. Thinking back to her nightmarish experience, she nodded obediently. "Let's go." Xiaohua waved his hand and flew into the air. He shouted, "We'll rush to the southwest border. I hope it won't be too late." "Yes." The crowd of about 100 cultivators responded and followed Xiaohua into the air. But after a short moment, Wan Wuxin turned his head and looked around, asking tentatively, "Senior Xiao, could it be that we're just going to fly over like this?" Xiaohua's flying speed had long surpassed ordinary flying artifacts, so he didn't need to use the Pegasus, flying chariot, and other flying artifacts. Furthermore, he had just arrived at the ruins, so he wasn't familiar with anything in the ruins. Of course, he didn't know that there were other flying artifacts in the ruins other than teleportation formations. Xiaohua smiled and said, "This old man is someone from the outside world. I'm not familiar with the situation in the ruins. Feel free to speak your mind." "Yes, Senior." Wan Wuxin smiled apologetically. He looked around and said, "Among the 10 sects in the southwest border, the one closest to here should be Baiyun Taoist Temple, right?" "Indeed." A Baiyun Taoist disciple hastily flew over and said, "From here to my Baiyun Taoist Temple's Baixia Ridge, it's several million li. If we were to simply fly over, I'm afraid it would take several months. Although there are some teleportation formations in the middle, the closest teleportation formation is 1,000,000 li away. However, since the Devil Emperor wants to invade the southwest border, he would most likely seal off the southwest 4 territories, so those teleportation formations can't be used. Also, because this is the teleportation hub, there aren't any sects nearby." Another disciple added, "The closest sect is Blood Palace Hall in the east. It's also 1,000,000 li away. That Blood Palace Hall is 2,000,000 li away from Baiyun Taoist Temple. Right now, the news has already been sent out through the passage near the teleportation formation, but even if Blood Palace Hall sends out disciples, they wouldn't be as fast as us. Furthermore, Blood Palace Hall has a grudge with Baiyun Taoist Temple, and 50 years ago, they were attacked by the devil race, so they probably wouldn't send out disciples to fight. Only when the three major sects, incense-spreading cult, Shandao sect, and Misty School, receive the news, the conference hall will jointly issue orders, and only then will the sects send out disciples to fight. One Wuxin continued, otherwise, I would have already told the other disciples. It's a bit messy. Xiao Hua scratched his head. He wasn't good at commanding, and now that he had just arrived at the ruins, he was completely clueless about the Taoist devil war, so he was even more confused after hearing all the disciples talking at once. Fortunately, one Wuxin whispered from the side, Senior Xiao, the flames of war have spread throughout the ruins. Our Dao sect has more than 100 sections. Other than leaving enough disciples to guard the mountain gates, the other disciples have formed an army to fight against the devil race at the outer realm Great Array. The devil emperors suddenly left the battlefield and attacked the southwest border. Even if the army received the news, they would have to mobilize their troops immediately. Their actions are delayed, so they might not be able to save the 10 sections. Now, we have to rely on the disciples left behind by the other sections. Our Shandao sect, the three major sects, and the conference hall naturally wouldn't sit by and do nothing. However, if we had to use the teleportation formation to reach Blood Palace Hall and then fly to Baiyun Taoist Temple, I'm afraid it would be too late. As for perfected person, at this point, one Wuxin was somewhat hesitant, and he transmitted his voice. Senior, you don't have to take my words seriously when I asked you to save Baiyun Taoist Temple. But Xiao Hua was stunned and asked curiously, since I'm going to Baiyun Taoist Temple, why can't I save them? Senior's cultivation is heaven-defying and has already reached the Dao transformation realm, but the Devil Emperor is personally commanding 500,000 devil soldiers. Senior, you definitely can't face them alone. Moreover, Senior doesn't have to fight the Devil Emperor for real. One Wuxin explained, with Senior's divine ability, as long as you appear near Baiyun Taoist Temple and disturb the Devil Army, the Devil Emperor will know that their plan has been discovered by our Dao sect cultivators. They will definitely retreat and definitely won't be besieged by our Dao sect army. Oh. Xiao Hua came to a realization and nodded. I understand. You want me to disturb the Devil Emperor and make him mistakenly think that the army is coming. One Wuxin nodded. That's exactly what Junior meant. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you go or not. Xiao Hua looked at Wan Wuxin and asked meaningfully. Wan Wuxin's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly replied, Senior, you're overthinking. This news was brought by me. I don't know whether others will go or not, but I will definitely go with Senior. Then let's go together. Xiao Hua was even more puzzled. Why do you still ask us if we can fly over? Senior. Wan Wuxin was somewhat helpless and could only say, what Junior means is that if we fly over like this, I'm afraid that the Devil Emperor will have already destroyed the 10 southwestern sections. If we have some flying Dharma treasure or some spatial transmission secret technique, our speed will be faster. Xiao Hua sighed. Wan Wuxin, if you have anything to say, just say it. Who knows what you're going to say if you keep being secretive and only say half a sentence? Yes, Junior understands. Wan Wuxin's forehead was somewhat sweaty, but he was also secretly complaining in his heart. There were some things that he could say directly to Senior, but there were some things that he couldn't say for the sake of Senior's face. How could he know that Senior Xiao Hua knew nothing about the ruins and had to ask about everything? Don't you have flying Dharma treasures? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Naturally, we all have flying Dharma treasures. Wan Wuxin carefully replied, however, our flying Dharma treasures are relatively low level and are only used for short distances. For long-distance flights, we usually use transmission arrays. Therefore, what Junior means is, does Senior have a Dharma treasure for long-distance flights? If you do, we can ride Senior's Dharma treasure and directly go there. Hee hee. Xiao Hua laughed, waved his hand and said, if it was before, this old man naturally didn't have one. But before we arrived at the ruins, this old man just happened to build a flying boat. Now it can be used. As Xiao Hua waved his arm, a clap of thunder was heard out of thin air. Soon after, a huge black shadow appeared in front of everyone. A thunderous momentum rushed out from the black shadow, blowing all the cultivators to the point that they couldn't stand steadily. When everyone saw the thing that appeared in midair, their eyes unconsciously widened, and their faces were full of surprise. In midair, a thunderbolt that was several thousand feet in size flashed with endless lightning, majestically floating there. The thunderbolt was entirely ashen in color, and on the surface of the thunderbolt, there were clear runes that flowed in the shape of lightning. The bow of the thunderbolt was like a flying sword, and a layer of lightning arc was produced, instantly passing through the surface of the thunderbolt and landing on the stern of the thunderbolt. The stern of the thunderbolt was also like a flying sword, but when the lightning reached the tip of the flying sword, it turned into a sphere of lightning that was 1 foot in size and entered the thunderbolt. As the lightning arc flashed, the entire thunderbolt let out a rumbling sound. This rumbling sound was incessant, and it seemed to resonate in everyone's heart. Huan Wuxin and the other cultivators of the ancient ruins had seen many flying Dharma artifacts. Some of them might be bigger than this thunderbolt, and some of them might be more majestic than this thunderbolt. However, they had never seen a flying Dharma artifact that was driven by lightning. Huan Wuxin groaned and asked somewhat weakly, "Senior, this flying boat of yours, how many primordial stones do you need to drive it?" If I need to use primordial stones to drive it, then this old man will be poor to death after flying for a while. I'm afraid that no matter how many primordial stones I have, it won't be enough." Xiao Hua laughed, waved his hand, and said, "Everyone get on." "Yes, senior." The disciples were overjoyed, and they all flew onto the thunderboat. When they arrived on the thunderboat, the disciples realized that the thunderboat was covered with puppets. These puppets were in human form, and some were in beast form. They were either driving the flying boat or patrolling the thunderboat. Everything was in good order. Huan Wuxin, Xiao Hua shouted, "Do we fly directly to the southwest?" "Yes, senior." Huan Wuxin hurriedly replied, "At this time, we just need to fly to the southwest." While speaking, Huan Wuxin pointed in the southwest direction, as if drawing legs on a snake. Chapter 4089. All right. Xiao Hua nodded and raised his hand to form hand seals, hitting a few puppets who were the leaders. Then he hit a few more hand seals at the core of the thunderboat. There was a small lightning pool there. As the lightning pool flickered, thin lightning water flowed out. The thunderboat rushed towards the southwest with a rumbling sound. Xiao Hua had obtained a damaged thunder-concealing bead from Taoist Han in the Misty Mountain Maze formation back then. Xiao Hua relied on this thunder-concealing bead and Do Shanjuan's cultivation method to cultivate the art of lightning to great success. When he was building the thunderboat, he suddenly had a strange idea. He abandoned the thunderboat's origin stone formation and used a lightning pool instead. This lightning pool was built by Xiao Hua according to his comprehension of the thunder-concealing bead's true essence of lightning. Although it was not perfect, it was more than enough to provide lightning for the thunderboat. With this lightning pool, the thunderboat built by Xiao Hua was more than twice as fast as the thunderboat of the Thunder Control sect. The thunderboat flew up. Xiao Hua looked at Huan Wuxin and said with a smile, "Huan Wuxin, what's your cultivation level now?" Huan Wuxin answered respectfully, "Senior, please no. Junior's aptitude is dull. I'm only in the Qi refinement realm." Qi refinement realm? Xiao Hua was stunned. However, he understood in a moment that this Qi refinement realm was definitely not the Qi refinement realm that he knew. Moreover, the Void refinement realm that Yu Mingxin mentioned earlier was definitely not the Void refinement realm that he knew. He thought for a moment and asked, "How are the cultivation realms in the ruins divided?" "Senior?" Huan Wuxin was slightly stunned. His eyes rolled a few times and he understood something. "Hence," he answered honestly, "the cultivation of the ruins is divided into 8 major realms: essence refinement, Qi transformation, deity transformation, void transformation, and Dao transformation. There are 9 levels in each realm." Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. The division of the realms in the ruins was almost the same as the division of the Confucian cultivators. Except for the last realm, the Confucian cultivators were the Void refinement realm. However, the Tao sect of the ruins separated each realm of the Confucian cultivators into two. They were also divided into 9 levels. Damn it, what's going on? Xiao Hua cursed in his heart and casually said, "Show this old man your cultivation method." Wan Wuxin was stunned and hesitated. Xiao Hua glanced at him unhappily and said, "There's no need to use your Shindao sect's cultivation method. Ordinary cultivation methods will do." Yes, Junior knows his mistake. Wan Wuxin blushed and hurriedly took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua immersed his spirit sense into the jade slip and took a look. His brows wrinkled even more. Inside the jade slip was a simple cultivation method. There were only 3 realms: essence refining, qi transforming, and qi refining. What was recorded inside were genuine Tao sect cultivation techniques. What magic arts, magic power, and so on were all similar to the hidden immortal continent and dawn rain continent. However, the essence of cultivation was completely different from what Xiao Hua knew. The cultivators in the ruins did not cultivate their nascent souls, but their primordial spirits. Damn it, it's really messed up. Xiao Hua scratched his head. What the hell is going on? The true essence of Confucian cultivation was to cultivate the breath of life in the chest, cultivating the 5 qis unification. However, they took the wrong path. I don't know when they started to cultivate their primordial spirits and pursue power like the Tao sect. My Tao sect originally stole the power of heaven and earth and communicated with yin and yang to give birth to babies. We focused on cultivating our nascent souls. How come we started to cultivate our primordial spirits here? In the end, who is the authentic one and who is the reference? The essence of my Tao sect's cultivation? Could it be that it was also lost? Could it be that this Xiao also practiced wrongly? My Tao sect is the one that cultivates primordial spirits? It seems like, even if this Xiao wants to keep the ruins, I'm afraid it's impossible. The path of cultivation is completely different. Without cultivation methods, without medicinal pills, there's simply no way to stand out. Unless the Xiao is willing to give up this Mahayana realm and cultivate from the beginning. This Xiao's final path is still to return to the hidden immortal continent's great snow mountain. Xiao Hua waved his hand and returned the jade slip to Wan Wuxin, letting him go. He then stood on the flying boat and looked out of the thunderboat. Seeing the thunderboat piercing through the sky as if it was splitting the wind and cutting the waves, unbridled and fast as lightning in the sky above the ruins, the group of disciples was also drunk. Because they knew clearly in their hearts that the devil race had besieged the ruins for hundreds of years and had gone through countless battles in the ruins. The devil race was proficient in spatial escape technique. During the battles, the space of the righteous ruins was destroyed by the devil race. Don't look at the clear and cloudless blue sky. Who knows how many black holes and space cracks existed in it? The flying magic tools of ordinary cultivators were the most afraid of these things and never dared to fly at full speed. Only the large magic tools within the sect dared to try to increase their speed. However, if it was like the thunderboat that was rampaging, there really wasn't any. In fact, not to mention the group of disciples, even Xiao Hua himself was so proud that he wanted to raise his tail. After this thunderboat was built, it had always been in the space and had never been taken out to fly. When it was flying, Xiao Hua released his divine sense to monitor the abnormal situation in front of him. When a space crack appeared, Xiao Hua tried to use the thunderboat's lightning to destroy it. When the huge body of the thunderboat entered the void, the power of space in the crack was about to tear the thunderboat apart. Xiao Hua discovered that the wood he obtained in the folded jade legacy realm was 100 times better than the iron palm wood in the Yazi auction house. Although it was slightly deformed under the power of space, the overflowing lightning on the surface of the thunderboat caused the power of space to sway, so this thunderboat wouldn't be torn apart. Finally, Xiao Hua felt relieved and sat cross-legged on the top of the thunderboat. He released his netherworld origin power and absorbed the wandering souls into the inside of the space. Along with the descent of the wandering souls from the ruins, the population on the yang side of the space, after thousands of years of stagnation, began to multiply at an accelerated rate. A vigorous life force floated in the space, converged, fused into the void, and fell into the body of the heavenly Tao Xiaohua. At the same time, even more karma that was 10,000 times more complex than the life force also fell into the hands of the karma Xiaohua. Although thousands of years had passed in the space and 20,000 years had passed in the heavens prison, the cultivation of the heavenly Tao Xiaohua and the karma Xiaohua still didn't make much progress. However, the divination technique given by Jiuxia had made considerable progress under the comprehension of the karma Xiaohua. Those comprehensions had already been obtained by Xiaohua when the Jade Archive entered the space. Currently, Xiaohua didn't know how effective this divination technique was. However, when he thought about how he was able to deduce some karma through the divination technique when he was merely at the 5th grade of essence energy, Xiaohua had high hopes for this divine ability. Just as he was thinking, Xiaohua slightly frowned and looked ahead. He opened his mouth and was about to remind some of the disciples who were meditating around the thunderbolt. However, after thinking for a while, he closed his mouth. Then he rubbed his hands and a thumb-sized crystal radiance landed on the thunderbolt. Buzz! A loud rumbling sound resounded from the edge of the thunderbolt. Several lightning flashes appeared and strengthened the defense of the thunderbolt by several times. At the same time, the speed of the thunderbolt increased by 30%. In just the time it took to eat a meal, the sky in front of the thunderbolt was covered with dense blood clouds. Blood shadows that were thousands of zhang in size were roaring in the blood clouds. These blood shadows were either holding demonic artifacts or white bones. They looked extremely malevolent. Following the blood clouds, blood water flowed like a waterfall. The blood water enveloped the space within 10,000 li. Moreover, in the air 10,000 li away, groups of demonic soldiers holding demonic artifacts roared and danced in the air while riding on demonic beasts. Xiaohua, who was sitting on the thunderbolt, had long sensed that the number of wandering souls in the vicinity was several times more than before. Wan Wuxin didn't really calm down to cultivate. On one hand, he was somewhat apprehensive about the accuracy of his information. On the other hand, he was also pondering about what happened after he met Xiaohua. Previously, when Xiaohua activated the thunderbolt's defense, he was already vigilant. When he saw the blood clouds in the distance, Wan Wuxin suddenly stood up and shouted, "Taoist Xiao, there's a demonic array of the demon race in front of us." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Don't worry, this old man has already seen it." But Wan Wuxin shouted again, "Taoist Xiao has already seen it. Why are you still moving forward? Let this old man ask you, is this the main battlefield of the Taoist and demon war?" Xiaohua asked indifferently as he watched the bloody waterfall in the distance with narrowed eyes. Xiaohua had the soul cultivator Xiaohua activate his soul arts and control his netherworld origin power. Wan Wuxin was taken aback and naturally shook his head. Of course, this is not the main battlefield. Since this is not the main battlefield, could the so-called demon king be here? Should not be. Since that's the case, what do I have to fear? Moreover, if the demon king is here, it would save me a trip to the southwest border. As he spoke, Xiaohua slapped the top of his head. His Mahayana aura rushed out and rushed toward the blood clouds in the distance. Seeing that the huge blood clouds were violently swaying under the impact of his aura, Xiaohua couldn't help but frown slightly. Good. Since Taoist Xiao is willing to fight, then we'll bathe in blood with you. Wan Wuxin and the others were also fired up by Xiaohua's words, and all of them prepared to charge out of the lightning arc. Boom! Just as the blood clouds were swaying, the roar of countless beasts erupted from the blood clouds. The entire blood clouds were torn into millions of pieces, and hundreds of devilish soldiers mounted on devilish beasts flew out from the clouds. At the same time that the blood clouds were torn apart, the spiritual sense concealment formation was opened, and Xiaohua was able to clearly see that the devilish army was densely packed with devilish soldiers. From a distance, each and every one of them looked like a bunch of green-headed flies. After a quick sweep of his spiritual sense, Xiaohua could already tell that there were over 100,000 devilish soldiers. Xiaohua couldn't help but draw a sharp breath as he exclaimed, "If there are over 100,000 devilish soldiers on this side, then wouldn't there be 600,000 devilish soldiers on all sides? How could there be so many of them?" Xiaohua had never been very sensitive to numbers. Even though he had experienced the Taoist sword battle on the Dawn Rain continent, the total number of people who participated in that battle was only in the hundreds of thousands. When had he ever seen 600,000 devilish soldiers in a Taoist sword battle? Since there were 600,000 devilish soldiers, then what about the Taoist cultivators? Naturally, there would be no less than this number. Thinking back to how he had prepared to use this lightning arc to attack the devilish formation, Xiao Hua felt that he had been far too arrogant. Chapter 4090. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua had already spoken too confidently. Now that the spilled water couldn't be undone, he could only charge forward. However, although there were several tens of thousands of devil soldiers, their strength was limited. Xiao Hua's remorse slowly dissipated. He was now in the Mahayana realm. The void divine ability that the devil race was so proud of was just a show in front of him. Although it was somewhat difficult to kill several tens of thousands of devil soldiers by himself, it wasn't impossible if he used all his methods. Crackle, crackle. In the air, a series of explosions resounded. Xiao Hua's pressure was blocked by the tens of thousands of devil soldiers. Moreover, in the midst of the explosions, waves of bloody impact landed on Xiao Hua's Naiwan palace, causing Xiao Hua to have an indescribable feeling of dizziness. Xiao Hua knew that this was the devil race's method to deal with Tao experts. Thus, he smiled and withdrew his pressure. Then he slapped his forehead. Clang! A sound of metal and stone rang out. A nascent soul hand that was several hundred kilometers in size flickered with faint golden light as it fell from the sky. What divine ability is this? Ordinary nascent soul divine abilities in the Dawn Rain continent were already rare divine abilities in the ruins. Wan Wuxin and the others were somewhat flabbergasted. The large golden hand descended, forcibly imprisoning more than 10,000 devil soldiers. However, the devil inscriptions around the devil soldiers flickered with strange fluctuations. Although their resistance was weak, they still stubbornly resisted. Xiao Hua's large hand grabbed and only killed about 2,000 devil soldiers. These devil soldiers were all huge in size, but when they fell into Xiao Hua's hand, their bodies rapidly shrank. Woo! The large hand quickly tightened, causing a gust of wind to rise near him. Countless devil blood splattered, and specks of devil fire fell into the air. Just like that, the 2,000 devil soldiers were turned into blood paste by Xiao Hua's hand. That gust of wind was Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua activating his netherworld origin power. Whether it was the souls of the devil soldiers or the souls of the humans on the devil artifacts, they were all absorbed into his space. Moreover, at the same time Xiao Hua activated his divine ability, the exterminating devil flames and devil blood were condensed into a fist-sized pearl and fell into his body for the devil spirit Xiao Hua to cultivate. Immediately after, Xiao Hua clawed 2 more times, killing close to 5,000 demon soldiers. When he was about to claw for the 4th time, the several tens of thousands of demon soldiers released powerful ripples at the same time. The rhythm of these ripples was similar, and along with the ripples, devil flames and devil blood flew into the air. The several tens of thousands of ripples were like tens of thousands of weak little blades of grass, blocking Xiao Hua's hand. The devil flames and devil blood then formed a several thousand zhang tall demon body in the air. The devil body had just been born when a fist smashed toward Xiao Hua's large hand. The inky black fist was crushed by the massive hand, and at the same time, the light emanating from the hand dimmed significantly. Xiao Hua's nascent soul hand was vanquished by tens of thousands of devilish soldiers. Damn it, it's a bit strange. Xiao Hua muttered. Above his head, a huge pillar of light suddenly appeared. After entering the void, it instantly hit the devil body's head. The devil body's black chi and devil blood disappeared in the pillar of light, and the huge void was repaired in a moment. Everyone on the lightning boat watched such a wonderful battle with extraordinary splendor in their eyes. When Xiao Hua's attack was thwarted, Wan Wuxin shouted, "Senior Xiao, this devil body is the condensation of the devil spirits of tens of thousands of devil soldiers. It's not a real devil body. Junior has heard of our Dao Sect's primordial spirit devouring technique. It's very effective." Damn it. Xiao Hua was helpless. He laughed bitterly in his heart, This Xiao only cultivates the nascent soul, not the primordial spirit. How would I know about the primordial spirit devouring technique? Although Xiaohua didn't know about the primordial spirit devouring technique, he knew about lightning arts. A dark green brilliance appeared on his forehead, and green seal characters fell into the air. Rumble. The space within hundreds of kilometers was filled with 3 corpses in lightning, killing more than half of the devil body. The power of the lightning arts seems to have increased greatly in the ruins. Xiaohua's lips curled into a smile. He thought in his heart and shouted again, "Sit tight and watch this old man's moves." Huan Wuxin hastily sat down cross-legged, while Xiaohua urged the thunderbolt to speed up once again. Boom boom. The sound of space trembling could be heard as the thunderbolt crushed the somewhat transparent devil body. The thunderbolts on the thunderbolt shattered the devil body. Under the lightning bolt's attack, nearly 30% of the tens of thousands of devil soldiers fell from the sky. Immediately after, the lightning bolt rushed into the blood-colored waterfall under the blood clouds. The blood-colored waterfall was abnormally tough. When the bow of the lightning bolt landed on it, it actually couldn't pierce through it. Following which, the entire thunder ship let out an even louder roar as several lightning bolts charged into the blood-colored waterfall. It was as though the entire world was trembling as the lightning bolts tore a crack in the blood-colored waterfall. As soon as the crack appeared, countless demons pounced on the thunder ship, baring their fangs as they tore at the thunder ship. Blood even dripped onto the thunder ship and flowed down. Dang dang. The sounds of devil weapons hitting the lightning bolt frightened Huan Wuxin and the others, causing goosebumps to appear all over their bodies. Rumble, rumble. The lightning on the lightning bolt seemed to be endless. It flickered continuously, and its power didn't decrease at all. After every lightning bolt, all the blood would disappear, and all the devils would be killed and turned into powder. The lightning bolt's invincibility was revealed once again. Xiaohua, who was controlling the thunder ship, saw through the defense of the thunder ship and saw the demon formation clearly. Just as he had expected, the inside of the demon formation was filled with blood stains. Every 10 feet of blood stains, there would be a demon. The lightning bolt traveled for hundreds of miles, and it seemed as though it was traveling through a blood sea in the netherworld. Alas, things are getting out of hand. Xiaohua sighed. This Taoist devil war really has many things that this Xiao can easily participate in. If not for the lightning pool driving the lightning boat, this Xiao would have lost face. Just as Xiaohua was thinking, a powerful divine sense penetrated from afar. Although a part of it was eroded by the devil array, it still easily landed on the lightning boat. Of course, the lightning boat's defense blocked the probing of this divine sense. When this divine sense landed, several lightning bolts even hit it. When the divine sense saw how powerful the lightning bolt was, it hurriedly withdrew. Xiaohua quickly released his divine sense and was about to make contact with that divine sense. Ooh. At this moment, all the demonic soldiers and demonic generals within the demonic array quickly dodged. A blood-colored demonic golem that was almost 10,000 feet tall flew over from afar. This demonic golem was surging with black flames. Strands of black flames and demonic blood coiled around the demonic golem's body, forming huge knots. Within these knots, there were many demonic generals dancing and roaring. It looked very much like a simple demonic armor. As soon as the devil statue came out, it flapped its wings and a hurricane suddenly appeared. Its tail had already landed on the lightning boat. Boom! The entire lightning boat's defense cracked like glass. The lightning was suffocating, and the whole lightning boat rolled in the devil array. Just as the devil statue was about to stretch out its devil claws and tear the lightning boat apart, Xiaohua roared and rushed out with the wishful steel staff in his hand. As soon as Xiaohua flew out, he was only a few dozen feet in size. Then, his whole body flashed with a bronze brilliance. Boom! A strong moonlight fell from the sky. Not only did it tear a crack in the demonic array, but it also fell on Xiaohua's Dharma body. His transcendence golden body also expanded rapidly. In just a few breaths, a golden body that was as tall as a demon statue also stood in the demonic array. How could Xiaohua give the devil statue a chance? As soon as the golden body was formed, he immediately stepped on the demon cloud and waved the wishful steel staff at the devil statue. The devil statue was obviously angry. It waved its devil wings, and its claws and 4 feet reached into the void at the same time. It actually grabbed Xiaohua from all directions. Woo-woo! The wishful steel staff danced and protected Xiaohua's body. It was watertight. Boom boom. With a series of vibrations, the attack of the devil statue seemed to be hit by the wishful steel staff at the same time. The wishful steel staff was heavy, and Xiaohua's current strength was even more incredible. Ayo ayo! The devil statue roared in pain and its figure retreated quickly. Kacha! Another flash of lightning, and Xiaohua's golden body suddenly fell in front of the devil statue. Boom! With a loud noise, Xiaohua's fist had smashed into the body of the devil statue. A black flame mixed with demon blood sprayed out and fell on Xiaohua's arm. Zilala! The sound of corrosion filled the world again. However, the demon blood only corroded the bronze brilliance of the golden body a little. When the surface of the golden body was covered with a faint layer of demonic qi, the demon blood and black flames slowly disappeared. Woo! The devil statue was in great pain. Its claws danced in the air, and the previous sound of the wind fell on Xiaohua's arms. Cha-cha! An obscure sound came from the surface of Xiaohua's body. The devil statue's claws flashed with bright blood. Looking at Xiaohua's arms, there were several shallow cracks, but it did not penetrate the flesh at all. Hee. The devil statue was obviously shocked. It did not expect the golden body of the human cultivator opposite it to be so strong. At the same time, the devil statue's left wing hurriedly chopped down, trying to force Xiaohua to pull his arm out of the devil statue. Unfortunately, at the same time, Xiaohua's arm blocked it without fear. Ka! Once again, there was a sound of metal. The devil statue's left wing was beaten into a bloody mess, and it had to retreat quickly. Good. In the distance, a figure of 100 feet in size stepped on a flying sword and rushed into the demonic array. Seeing such a brave person like Xiaohua, it could not help but shout out to him. Xiaohua glanced at the armored cultivator and swayed again, smashing the head of the devil statue with the wishful steel staff. The devil statue waved its claws as it retreated, and 2 demonic hammers appeared out of nowhere. These demonic hammers were as big as mountains. Woo-woo! They made a whistling sound and smashed the wishful steel staff. Fellow Taoist, don't fight with this devil monarch. This kind of devil monarch is very powerful. If fellow Taoist has a powerful spell, you can use it and kill him. The cultivator had not finished speaking. Ayo! Several devil generals had already flown out from the demonic array, waving their devil weapons and urging their magical powers to stop him, forcing him to not even finish his words. Chapter 4091. Boom! The devil hammer and the wishful staff collided, and a hurricane suddenly rose. Woo! One of the devil hammers soared into the sky like a star. The cultivator who was fighting with the devil general was dumbfounded. He looked at Xiaohua's golden body in disbelief. It was the first time he had seen a human cultivator whose strength was comparable to the devil race's devil monarch. Xiaohua sensed that this cultivator's spiritual awareness was different from the previous one. He knew that he had received a military order to come in and help. At this time, he knocked away the devil hammer of the devil monarch. After a little thought, he opened his mouth and the Tengjiao shears flew out. A golden light like the rising sun illuminated the inside of the devil array. The raging devils in the bloody light howled, covered their blinded eyes, and shrank into the bloody mist. Swoosh! The golden light flashed past, and the demon monarch looked at his waist in disbelief. Layers upon layers of blood mixed with black flames gushed out from his waist. There was simply no time for him to dodge. The soaring dragon shears had already cut him into 2 at the waist. The devil monarch only thought of asking at this time, and the devil chi in his waist was surging, quickly repairing the devil body. At this moment, above Xiaohua's head, a 5-colored beam of light suddenly emerged and hit the devil monarch's heart faster than lightning. Boom! With a loud sound, the devil body, which was indestructible in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, and the layers of entangled devil armor outside were all turned into flying ash in this beam of light. The devil monarch raised his wings and flapped them weakly a few times, and his body fell backward with a bang. Ah? The cultivator's surprise had just passed. Seeing Xiaohua kill the devil monarch, the excitement surged into his heart like a climax. However, Xiaohua's subsequent actions made him puzzled. He saw Xiaohua raise his hand and pick up a jade bottle. The jade bottle shone brilliantly, and a beam of light fell toward the devil monarch. The devil monarch's body disappeared along with the beam of light. In fact, he couldn't even stop the tens of thousands of red tentacles that rushed out of the Blood River demonic formation. Buzz! Before the excitement of the cultivators could disappear, they saw a new change in the demonic array. The blood-red color from before slowly condensed into pus. Large droplets of pus dripped down. Each drop of pus contained hundreds of tiny devils. Moreover, as the pus dripped down, the entire space trembled slightly. It was as if even the void was about to be penetrated. Not good. The cultivator turned pale with fright as he hurriedly slapped the top of his head, causing a lotus-like treasure to fly out. Pooh! The treasure spewed out 2 halos of light, one blue and one white, which enveloped the cultivator's entire body. Following which, the cultivator sent a voice transmission, "Senior, hurry up and leave. This is the Demon Array's Blood Sea Transformation Array. It's formed when hundreds of thousands of demon generals and demon beasts fuse their demon blood essence together and devour each other. We Dao sect cultivators can't resist it alone." Not waiting for the cultivator to finish speaking, a crackling sound echoed out from within the devilish formation. With Xiaohua's figure as the epicenter, it surged upwards in all directions. The large droplets of pus and blood all turned into green smoke within the thunderbolts. The cultivator was stunned once again. How can the thunder technique be used within the demon array? The cultivator was slightly stunned. Immediately, half a drop of pus and blood fell on the blue and white halos. Zzz. With a muffled sound, the blood and pus easily penetrated the halos. The devil inside the blood and pus wantonly devoured the brilliance of the treasures and headed towards the cultivator's back. Not good. The cultivator turned pale with fright. He opened his mouth and a scarlet light rolled out and fell on his back. Unfortunately, where the scarlet light fell, the blood and pus only flashed with a blood-red light and actually devoured the scarlet light. It was completely useless. The cultivator didn't dare to be negligent. He didn't have time to say anything to Xiaohua and urged his figure to escape from the demonic array. Moreover, at the same time his figure flew, the cultivator waved his hand and threw out a jade talisman. A pink brilliance passed through the halos and wrapped around the blood and pus. The pink brilliance was like a flower bud, and the blood and pus was like a maggot. It tried its best to drill into the flower bud. Even though the pink brilliance flourished, it still couldn't really stop it. What was special was that the cultivator fled in panic. In front of his head, there was a large drop of blood and pus that let out a ghostly howl and fell towards him. Looking at Xiaohua again, under the thunder technique, the large amount of blood and pus was destroyed. However, above the lightning, there were still blood droplets that fell like a rainstorm. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the fleeing cultivator as well as the thunderbolt that stopped within the demonic array. He stretched out his hand and grabbed. No matter if it was the cultivator or the thunderbolt, they were all sucked into his hand. Then, Xiaohua's body emitted lightning. Whoosh! His entire figure also flew in the direction the cultivator wanted to escape. Boom! In front of Xiaohua's head, there should be a barrier of the demonic formation. Under the impact of Xiaohua's golden body and lightning escape, a several thousand-meter-long crack was forcibly torn open. Xiaohua's 30,000-meter-long golden body bullied the demonic formation and charged out from inside. As soon as Xiaohua came out of the demonic array, his eyes immediately lit up. Hundreds of huge flying boats stopped within the space of 10,000 li. Each flying boat was surrounded by cultivators. On the flying boats, there were all kinds of powerful light pillars. These light pillars gathered together to form a huge light shield that protected the flying boats and the cultivators. Inside the light shield, there were many cultivators who formed a formation. Each of them urged their magic power and fought against the tentacles and devil generals that stretched out from the demonic array. The appearance of the thunderbolt and Xiaohua naturally attracted the attention of the cultivators. However, they only used their divine sense or their eyes to sweep over them. They hurriedly fought with all their might. The light shield that protected the human race was abnormally weak. It seemed like the demonic array could collapse with just a little bit of attack. "Fellow Taoist, quickly come and help me." Xiaohua had just put down the thunderbolt and the cultivators when a loud voice immediately came from the group of flying boats in the distance. The divine sense that swept over was exactly what Xiaohua had just seen. Xiaohua naturally knew that the situation was critical. His whole body flashed with brilliance. While shrinking his transcendence golden body, he teleported to the place where the voice came from. Xiaohua's figure passed through the light shield. The light shield shattered with a poof sound. There was no effective resistance at all. In the center of the human cultivators, there was a square flying boat. At this time, there were no cultivators on the flying boat. Everyone flew to the sky above the flying boat. Above the flying ship, a yellow pagoda surged. This pagoda was divided into 9 levels, and these people were also arranged into 9 levels. Every cultivator stimulated their true essence and poured it into the pagoda. At the top of the pagoda, there was a scholarly-looking young cultivator. His forehead was dripping with sweat, and his hands were forming strange seals, causing a yellow beam of light to shoot up into the sky. It was also this light pillar that blocked the demonic array, not letting it fall. As soon as the big drop of blood and pus touched the yellow light pillar, it immediately condensed into fist-sized stones and rolled around the light shield. "Hee, fellow Taoist, please wait a moment." Xiaohua looked up and down and nodded slightly. As he spoke, his figure flew to the side of the young cultivator. Just when the cultivators were a little puzzled, Xiaohua made a gesture with both hands. The space within 1,000 miles was filled with a whimpering roar. Thousands of heaven and earth spirit chi gathered toward Xiaohua. Just when all the cultivators' faces changed, Xiaohua waved his hands. Woo! Above Xiaohua's head, a palm thousands of miles in size appeared. Following Xiaohua's gesture, it slapped toward the demonic array. Boom! There was a loud noise like a landslide. The huge blood array was suddenly opened thousands of miles wide. All the demonic soldiers and generals inside were either killed or scattered. The light pillar that was suppressed by the blood array also rushed into the demonic army with a woo sound. Hundreds of demonic generals were killed by this light pillar. However, after activating the spell, the light around Xiaohua's body suddenly converged. His figure shook slightly and his face became a little pale. "Senior, don't worry." Seeing Xiaohua's magical ability, the young cultivator didn't dare to call him fellow Taoist anymore. He hurriedly shouted, "Senior, please take a pill first. This junior can still hold on." "No need." Xiaohua's figure flashed and appeared next to the cultivator. He reached out and said, "Give me the jade slip that controls the magic treasure." The cultivator didn't hesitate at all. He took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiaohua. Xiaohua's eyes slightly changed. He used his divine sense to explore the jade slip. However, after a moment, he returned the jade slip to the cultivator and said, "Step aside." "Yes, senior." The cultivator's expression relaxed. He hurriedly withdrew his magic power and moved to the side. As soon as the cultivator left, the light pillar immediately dimmed. It looked like it was about to shrink back. Xiaohua formed a spell with both hands and slowly landed on the pagoda. Although there wasn't any special fluctuation or brilliance, as soon as Xiaohua's spell touched the pagoda, woo-woo, the entire pagoda let out a trembling sound. Immediately after, the previously dimmed light pillar rose again. Boom! The light pillar swept across the entire blood array. The demonic bodies of several thousand demonic generals were penetrated by this light pillar. The young cultivator next to him had just taken a pill and hadn't adjusted his breathing. He was immediately shocked by the scene before him. He was so shocked that he was somewhat speechless. He was very clear in his heart. This Juechen pagoda was his sect's important treasure. It had always been used when setting up formations. Although he'd heard that there was a Dao school senior who activated it by himself in the past, he'd never seen it. None of the current sect masters and elders in his sect were able to activate this Juechen pagoda to its best effect. However, this unknown senior in front of him had just glanced at the method to activate the Juechen pagoda and was able to display such a great effect. How could he not be shocked? This cultivator was also a talented general. Seeing Xiao Hua like this, he immediately shouted, "Senior, activate the Juechen pagoda to defend the flying boat. Fellow brothers, we're going to the demonic formation to break it. Senior just killed a demonic monarch in charge of the formation. Right now is the best time to break the formation." Yes. The group of cultivators received the order and all withdrew from the surroundings of the Juechen pagoda. They stood around Xiao Hua and rested for a bit. After taking medicinal pills, they formed a formation again and ordered the cultivators near them to charge out of the light barrier. Chapter 4092. At the same time Xiao Hua activated the Juechen pagoda, that young cultivator flew into the air and released his divine sense, calmly commanding the disciples. "Senior, I'll have to trouble you to kill those 3 devil kings." While the young cultivator was commanding, he suddenly turned his head and said respectfully to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was startled. Then his divine sense looked towards the direction the young cultivator was pointing at. Sure enough, the 3 devil kings activated the demonic formation, trapping a dozen or so cultivators. Those cultivators were about to die. "Okay." Xiao Hua slightly nodded. The young cultivator smiled and said, "Many thanks, Senior." Just as the young cultivator finished speaking, he saw above the blood formation in the distance. Woo! Astral winds suddenly rose, and an indescribable force descended from the sky. The 3 devil kings hastily wanted to raise their demonic artifacts to block, but the divine sense hammer that was like a star smashed down, smashing them into the air in an instant. 2 devil kings' demonic bodies were torn apart, 1 devil king's arm was broken. Those dozen or so cultivators escaped with their lives, each one of them beaming with joy. They activated their magic treasures and chased down, killing the 3 devil kings in a short moment. The young cultivator's smile froze on his face. He somewhat helplessly looked at the Juechen pagoda in Xiao Hua's hand. He originally wanted to ask Xiao Hua to activate the Juechen pagoda to rescue them, but he didn't expect Xiao Hua to actually use a divine ability, injuring the 3 devil kings without anyone noticing. "Oh, there's also this place." Just as the young cultivator was about to release his divine sense to look at another place, Xiao Hua faintly muttered, then patted the Juechen pagoda floating in the air. The entire pagoda let out a happy rumble, and a beam of light streaked across the sky, instantly killing a devil king 1,000 li away. Seeing Xiao Hua so familiar with the Juechen pagoda, the young cultivator was completely speechless. He no longer diverted his attention to the safety of the flying boat, and wholeheartedly commanded the battle situation. As for Xiao Hua, while releasing the netherworld origin power to plunder souls, he also activated the Juechen pagoda to kill high-level devils according to the young cultivator's command. After no less than 3 days and 3 nights, that demonic formation finally slowly withdrew. However, the defeated demon soldiers and generals did not scatter. Instead, they left in an orderly formation, not giving the human cultivators any opportunity to attack. Even Xiao Hua, who wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to beat a drowning dog, sighed for a moment when he saw the strict demon formation and gave up the idea of pursuing. Woo! Seeing the devil army disappear into the void, all the cultivators screamed and cheered with tears streaming down their faces. They were already at death's door and were prepared to perish together with the devil army, but they were actually able to escape with their lives and even defeat the devil army. This was truly beyond their expectations, and they couldn't help but want to vent the joy of escaping from death's door. The young cultivator smiled as he looked around. He ordered the nearby disciples to arrange for people to clean up the battlefield. He himself flew in front of Xiao Hua and bowed. "Junior is Shindao Sex Ochu. Greetings, Senior." May I know Senior's Taoist name? There's no need to be so polite. This old man is Xiao Hua, and his Taoist name is Taoist Master Xiao. Xiao Hua smiled as he helped O Chu up. So it's Taoist Xiao. O Chu said respectfully. Junior brings my 120,000 Shindao sect's disciples to thank Taoist for saving our lives. As he spoke, O Chu bowed again. This old man already said, there's no need to be so polite. Xiao Hua supported O Chu, not allowing him to bow. He smiled and said, this old man just happened to pass by here. It was just a small effort. Moreover, this old man's help only increased the speed at which you defeated the devil army. It's nothing much. Sigh. O Chu's expression became even more solemn. However, he sighed and said, this is all because Senior is trying to flatter my Shindao sect. Junior knows it very well. If not for Senior's sudden appearance, the devil monarch who was fighting with Junior would have blocked Senior's path. Junior would have been injured long ago. Moreover, if Senior didn't control this Juchen pagoda, how would we have the chance to counterattack? To be honest, if Taoist didn't come, 20,000 of my 120,000 Shindao sect's disciples wouldn't have escaped alive. Hee hee. Xiao Hua smiled and didn't say much. He passed the Juchen pagoda to O Chu and said, this Juchen pagoda is really not bad. O Chu took the Juchen pagoda and put it away. He smiled and said, that's right. This Juchen pagoda is my Shindao sect's sect-guarding treasure. It's a pity that my Shindao sect doesn't have an expert like Taoist Xiao to activate it. This treasure has been covered in dust. As he spoke, O Chu raised his eyes to look at the thunder ship parked in the distance. He asked probingly, forgive Junior for being blind. Junior has never seen an expert like Taoist Xiao on the battlefield before. Senior, I'm afraid that you've already reached the Tao actualization realm, right? Hee hee. Xiao Hua smiled and said, this old man is from the outside world. Previously, I used the transportation array to go to another place. Perhaps when I was passing by the ruins, I was disturbed by those devil bastards and was accidentally transported to the tribute wasteland. After investigating carefully, this old man found out that the ruins is actually surrounded by the devil race. This old man can't even leave if he wants to. O Chu quivered and hurriedly said, Taoist Xiao, my Shindao sect is one of the 3 great sects of the ruins. It's also a branch of the Tai Bai sect. If Taoist Xiao doesn't have a place to stay in the ruins, this Junior boldly invites Taoist Xiao to be a guest at my Shindao sect's Xianchao Peak's Zhenming Hall. How could Xiao Hua not know what O Chu meant? He smiled and said, since I've arrived at the ruins, this old man will pay a visit to the Shindao sect, the Incense School, and the Misty School. However, this old man has to rush to the southwest border first. Oh, right, O Chu, your Shindao sect's disciple, Wan Wuxin, received news that the Devil Emperor is leading 500,000 devil soldiers to ambush the 10 sects of the southwest. Impossible! O Chu shook his head and said, the whereabouts of the Devil Emperors are uncertain. Even the sect masters of the various sects in the discussion hall couldn't find them using their secret techniques. How could an ordinary disciple obtain news about the Devil Emperors? If this news isn't fake, then it must be a trap. Hee hee, this isn't up to this old man to decide. Xiao Hua smiled and brought O Chu to the thunder ship. After removing the defense of the thunder ship, he released some of the disciples. Under O Chu's astonished gaze, Xiao Hua stored the thunder ship into the space. Wan Wuxin and the others naturally recognized O Chu. They all went up to greet him. Wan Wuxin blushed and told him the news. In front of Wan Wuxin, O Chu naturally didn't reprimand him. However, he casually told him what he understood and said, according to my understanding of the devil race, the whereabouts of the devil emperors wouldn't be known by ordinary devil generals, much less our human race. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that this news is true. However, how could the devil emperors only bring 500,000 devil soldiers? The devil race isn't like our human race. They can reproduce as they wish without any special difficulties. Just now, the number of devil soldiers that besieged our Shindao sect was at least 500,000. Yes, this disciple knows. Wan Wuxin blushed. This disciple can't be sure, so he didn't dare to tell the other disciples. Only after meeting Senior Shao did this disciple dare to say it. Spiritual Master Shao, please make the decision. Chu smiled. Wu Xin, this old man doesn't blame you. As long as we receive any news, regardless of whether it's true or false, we must report it to the sect for analysis. You did the right thing. However, the situation is urgent. Even if this news is true, I'm afraid we can't do anything about it. Yes, this disciple understands. Wu Xin carefully replied. Chu then explained to Xiaohua. Junior led the troops to the Thousand Lakes embankment to rescue the 200,000 disciples who were trapped by the devil soldiers. When we arrived, we were surrounded by the devil monarchs. Since the danger has passed, Junior will continue to head to the Thousand Lakes embankment. Therefore, this Junior can't possibly go to the southwest border. Of course, this Junior will also instruct this subordinate to pass this news to the Central Army and ask the conference hall to make a decision and send disciples to rescue them. Good. Xiaohua nodded. Then this old man can be at ease. Chu didn't delay and ordered a disciple to fly to the flying ship in the center. After a while, the disciple returned and reported that he had already sent the news. Did the conference hall send any orders? Chu asked again. The disciple shook his head. The conference hall didn't send any orders. At this point, the disciple looked at Xiaohua again and said respectfully, also, the seniors of the conference hall have asked Spiritual Master Shao to come to the conference hall if you have the time. Yes, this old man understands. Xiaohua nodded slightly and looked at Chu, asking, do you have any extra magic tools to communicate with the conference hall? Chu was shocked and said anxiously, Spiritual Master, this old man wants to go to the southwest border to take a look. Xiaohua smiled. However, this old man doesn't have any magic tools to communicate with. I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to contact the Tao disciples in the ruins. This magic tool is a secret creation of the sect. Every disciple who leads the army only has one. Chu smiled. I'm afraid this item can't be lent to Senior. It doesn't matter. Xiaohua waved his hand. It's best if you have it, but it doesn't matter if you don't. Spiritual Master Shao. Chu thought for a while and advised, this Junior knows that Senior's magic power is incomparable. Hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers are nothing in your eyes. Although the demonic formation from before is strange, if you want to leave, no one can stop you. However, you must know that you are alone. Even if you don't have the Demon Emperor, fighting hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers is beyond your power. Just like just now, Senior may have killed thousands of demon generals, but under the demonic formation, you have no choice but to avoid it. Moreover, if you want to go to the Southwest 10 sects, you will have to fight against hundreds of thousands or even millions of demon soldiers. This Junior knows the strength of the Southwest 10 sects very well. The 10 sects together might have millions of disciples, but how many of them can really fight? Especially since the 10 sects don't have a commander who can lead the army. The 100,000 disciples are like scattered sand. Even if you go, I'm afraid you won't be able to save many disciples. However, if it's a trap set by the Demon Emperor, you will have to face the Demon Emperor. Spiritual Master, why do you want to put yourself in a disadvantageous position? Yes, you are right. Xiaohua nodded after listening to Chu's analysis. He wasn't a talented commander, so he naturally didn't know much about mobilizing troops. However, just now, when facing the demonic formation, Xiaohua saw the use of mobilizing troops and the power of an army in battle. Although Xiaohua could move unhindered within the demonic formation, it was impossible for him to destroy the demonic formation. Chapter 4093. If Spiritual Master wants to exterminate the devil race, you can follow me to the Thousand Lakes embankment. There are countless devil race members there for Senior to vent your anger on. Chu took the opportunity to persuade Xiaohua. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and shook his head. Forget it. Since I already know about this, I won't feel at ease if I don't go and take a look. All right. Chu saw that Xiaohua insisted on going. He thought for a moment and said, since Spiritual Master insists on going, Then I'll send 2,000 disciples to follow Spiritual Master. First, they can be dispatched by Spiritual Master. Second, they can give Spiritual Master some ideas. Xiaohua looked at Chu with satisfaction and nodded slightly. However, after a moment, he rejected again. This old man appreciates your good intentions. This time, I'm only going to the southwest border to take a look. Just as you said, fighting against the Devil Emperor and 500,000 devil soldiers is not something I can do alone. Therefore, not only do you not need to send disciples to follow me, you also need to bring along the disciples of the 10 sects on my flying ship. If the southwest border is really raided by the Devil Emperor, these disciples will be the descendants of the 10 sections. Oh right, if you have a map of the ruins or the southwest border, give it to this old man so that I won't get lost. All right, this junior thanks Spiritual Master Xiao on behalf of the 10 sects. Chu handed a jade slip to Xiaohua and bowed respectfully. The disciples of the 10 sects also bowed. When they stood up, Chu said, "This junior still has military matters to attend to, so I don't dare to stay here for long. This is Junior's communication talisman. If Senior returns from the southwest, you can send a message to this junior when you're near the conference hall." Xiaohua took the communication talisman and looked at the cultivators who had already cleaned up the battlefield and were ready to leave. He said, "Hurry up and go. This old man hopes that you'll succeed. I'll be counting on Spiritual Master's auspicious words." Chu smiled and raised his hand. "Everyone listen to my order. Set off according to the 4-army formation. Wang Wang." The dozens of flying ships began to rumble and light scattered everywhere. When Chu and the others boarded the ships, they lined up neatly and flew towards a certain direction. Xiaohua took Chu's jade scroll and looked at it for a moment. Then, he looked at the stars in the sky and mocked himself. If I could find the 10 sects in the southwest with just the map in the jade scroll, why would I need one Wuxin to follow me? As he spoke, Xiaohua's figure flashed, and he had already disappeared from where he stood. In the early morning, when the sun had just risen, Xiaohua was sitting on top of a mountain peak. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 3 suns as well as the outline of the full moon that was opposite to the suns. He thought to himself, this place isn't Dawn Rain Continent, nor is it Hidden Immortal Continent. The vital chi of heaven and earth in this space seems to be different. However, judging from the situation of the past few days, he can be used by this old man. However, even if I can use it, can the disciples in my space use it? Can those disciples who have successfully cultivated in the space survive in this space? This seems to be a problem. Moreover, what Chu said is correct. Although this Xiao is brave, in the end, he cannot compare to a group of people. There are more than 100,000 Fortune Gate disciples in this space. Moreover, the cultivation of these disciples was high enough. However, although these disciples' cultivation is high, they have not gone through a true life and death experience. In the future, they may encounter a bottleneck that they cannot break through. Now that there is a great formation in this space, it is the best opportunity for them to gain experience. If this old man can bring them out, it will be beneficial for them, and it will also be beneficial for the 10 sects in the southwest. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and pulled out the green-robed Xiaohua. The current green-robed Xiaohua did not need to rely on the formless nascent soul to condense his body. In the air, wind rolled and clouds surged, and a fist-sized crystal slowly condensed. As more and more vital chi condensed, a human figure appeared. In just a short moment, the green-robed Xiaohua who looked exactly like Xiaohua lazily stood in front of Xiaohua. "Fellow Taoist." Xiaohua raised his hand and smiled. "What do you think of Ai's idea?" "Of course it's good." The green-robed Xiaohua nodded. "I always felt that the disciples in my sect were lacking something. Previously, I didn't understand, but now that fellow Taoist has thought of it, I also understand. They are lacking experience. We must let them experience life and death, and experience the test of blood and fire." "All right, if fellow Taoist thinks it is possible, then there is no problem." Xiaohua nodded. "Now, the only problem left is whether they can leave the space or not." Indeed, the green-robed Xiaohua was also somewhat hesitant. After all, they are using the spiritual light in the space to conceive their nascent soul. It is different from the vital chi of heaven and earth outside the space. This place is also different from the hidden immortal continent. I am also not certain. We have to try. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and asked, You should choose a disciple that you are certain of. Find a disciple who has just conceived a nascent soul. The green-robed Xiaohua seemed to have already decided. His achievements are limited, and it is also very strenuous to conceive a nascent soul. If it is not possible, then let him reincarnate earlier. Sweat. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He wanted to say something, but even if he opened his mouth, there was no way to teach him. After all, the green-robed Xiaohua was only his primordial spirit, and in terms of emotions he was not a real person. He could not ask him to respect every life like he did. All right, we will do as you say. As Xiaohua spoke, he concealed his figure and released his consciousness. He was prepared to immediately return that nascent soul realm disciple to the space if he found anything strange. As Xiaohua released his consciousness, that nascent soul realm disciple appeared in the air. He looked around in confusion, and then his gaze fell on the green-robed Xiaohua. He hurriedly bowed and saluted, Disciple Wang Feng greets ancestral master. The green-robed Xiaohua said with great magnanimity, This old man has brought you all to a space to gain experience. You can try to use the fireball technique. Yes, ancestral master. Wang Feng did not dare to be negligent. He rubbed his hands, but there was no movement between his hands. Wang Feng was stunned, and hurriedly released his divine sense. Then, his face was filled with understanding and surprise. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment, and then slowly rubbed his hands again. A fireball a few feet in size slowly appeared in his hands. The green-robed Xiaohua asked, How do you feel about the vital chi of heaven and earth here? Vital chi of heaven and earth? Wang Feng smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, Ancestral master, our Shenhua continent does not have any vital chi of heaven and earth. The techniques disciple uses are all recorded in the sect's ancient records. Disciple has not used these techniques on Shenhua continent before, so disciple has no way to compare them. Release your nascent soul. The green-robed Xiaohua said again, Release it slowly. Yes, disciple understands. A trace of panic appeared in Wang Feng's eyes. He clearly understood the consequences of releasing his nascent soul in a place with vital chi of heaven and earth, but he did not dare to disobey the green-robed Xiaohua's order. He raised his hand and a misty green light spurted out, and his nascent soul appeared on top of his head. Sure enough, when the nascent soul revealed its small hand, bubbles appeared on its small hand, and then the small hand began to collapse, shua. Before Wang Feng could do anything, a huge force swept him away. His vision blurred, and he returned to the familiar fortune gate. And Jade Archive Xiaohua was standing in front of him. Wang Feng could not tell who was Jade Archive Xiaohua and who was the green-robed Xiaohua. He hurriedly said respectfully, Ancestral master, disciple's nascent soul cannot appear in the world you found. I understand. Jade Archive Xiaohua nodded. You can cultivate at ease. Then Jade Archive Xiaohua asked the green-robed Xiaohua to find a function-severing disciple and a void refinement disciple, but their nascent souls also did not dare to fly out. It seems. Xiaohua nodded slightly and said, I'm afraid only body integration disciples can release their nascent souls. Then it should be so. The green-robed Xiaohua nodded. Body integration disciples merge their nascent souls with their physical bodies. As a spiritual body, the nascent soul also has the characteristics of the physical body, so it can use the physical body to adapt to different vital chi of heaven and earth. This is also the reason why our formless nascent souls can appear in the ruins. There are also I's 108th stage loose nascent souls. Xiaohua added, they have passed through the lightning tribulation and have already reached the spiritual body stage, so they don't need to be afraid of different vital chi of heaven and earth. Ask them to come out and take a look, the green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile. We can't just let I's disciples take risks, right? Xiaohua released 2 loose nascent souls, and as expected, they were not affected at all. Fortune Gate's disciples have to come out. Finally, Xiaohua said, even I's disciples have to come out, but their nascent souls are condensed from space's Shenhua continent, so tell them that no one can release their nascent souls. As long as their nascent souls are in their physical bodies, everything will be fine. But the green-robed Xiaohua frowned. Even if we disciples come out and form an army of 100,000, who will be the commander? Naturally, it will be Xiao Sheng. The scholarly cultivator called when Chu shouted arrogantly in Xiaohua's body. Other than Xiao Sheng, who else has the ability to command an army? Che! Xiaohua sneered. Listen to the name you gave yourself. Wen Chu, your grandmother, the Wen Chu star is a star revered by all scholarly cultivators, and you actually call yourself Wen Chu. Puff! Following a soft sound, the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua flew out from Xiaohua's middle dantian, holding an illusory folding fan in his hand. He waved it lightly and said proudly, What's Wen Chu? Fellow immortal Bodhi called himself Namo Methria, Kid Mo Ling called himself Sure, and even that dry guy called himself Celestial? You stay on the side. The green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile. You don't even have the perseverance to help I set up a fortune gate, and you still want to mobilize an army? Who said I don't have patience? The scholarly cultivator Xiaohua argued. At that time, didn't Xiaoxing just obtain the true essence of scholarly cultivation? I didn't have time to take care of your fortune gate. Enough, Xiaohua said with a smile. You and I are not people who can command an army, and I can't be at ease leaving the lives of a group of disciples in your hands. The scholarly cultivator Xiaohua didn't argue and asked curiously, So, fellow immortal wants to personally go to the southwest border. Chapter 4094. You and I can't do it, but there are others. Xiaohua smiled. Don't you and I have a ready-made candidate in our space? How could you forget? Oh, that's right. Scholarly cultivator Xiaohua held his forehead and said, I forgot about him. Although his cultivation base is only at the level of a Confucian cultivator, he can only be my grand disciple, but his ability to command troops is something that I cannot compare with. He's the best candidate to be the commander. Green-robed Xiaohua also smiled. This matter can only be done by true monarch Qingyun. However, fellow Taoist, if you let true monarch Qingyun's son Jian lead my fortune gate's 100,000 disciples, will you be at ease? Aren't you afraid that he will leak the secret to the immortal emperor? He is a loyal follower of the immortal palace's immortal emperor. Hee. Xiaohua laughs like an old fox. Not to mention that with this Xiao's current cultivation, I'm not afraid of any immortal emperor. Just based on this Xiao's control of an iron-blooded army, would the immortal palace dare to challenge this Xiao? True monarch Qingyuan is the immortal emperor's trusted aide. He will definitely tell the immortal emperor about what happened here, and he will also tell the immortal emperor about your strength. Scholarly cultivator Xiaohua nodded. Of course, he will also judge the situation and give the immortal emperor a suggestion. I don't need to think too much about it. Previously, true monarch Qingyun was ostracized in the immortal palace because his cultivation was insufficient. Although the immortal emperor stood his ground, once he made a mistake, it was inevitable that he would be punished. Xiaohua continued, Now, true monarch Qingyuan is already the sage of literature. In the future, true monarch Qingyuan will definitely be an important minister of the immortal palace. The immortal emperor can't disobey his words. Moreover, he has received I's teachings, and the entire immortal palace will benefit from it. It can be said that I am the master of all scholarly cultivators. Heaven, earth, ruler, teacher, and family are not nonsense. Scholarly cultivator Xiaohua and green-robed Xiaohua both nodded. Then, as fellow Taoist thinks, we will ask true monarch Qingyuan to lead our fortune gate's 100,000 troops. However, fellow Taoist still needs to keep some secrets. Of course. Xiaohua smiled. The 100,000 troops will be divided into several groups, and several fellow Taoists will supervise the troops. And we also need to transform. Don't let that guy recognize us. Scholarly cultivator Xiaohua suggested. Then, Xiaohua discussed with a few Essence Soul avatars and pulled perfected Lord Qingyuan out of the space. The moment true Lord Qingyuan came out of the space, his eyes were filled with fear. After all, his experiences in the heavenly prison were truly frightening. However, seeing the clear sky and the mountain peaks and huge rocks, which were almost the same as in the space, immortal Qingyuan Sun Jian was overjoyed. However, looking at the smiling Xiaohua, Sun Jian still bowed and saluted. Then, suppressing his ecstasy, he asked, "Immortal Xiao, can we leave the heaven prison and return to the hidden immortal continent?" "Take a look." Xiaohua raised his finger and pointed at the 3 suns in the sky. "Ah, three suns?" Sun Tian was dumbfounded. His eyes sparkled as he looked around and asked curiously, Where is this?" "This is the ruins." Xiaohua explains, "We did escape from the heaven prison, but we didn't return to the hidden immortal continent. Instead, we accidentally landed here. However, don't worry. Since I have the ability to escape from the heavenly prison, I will definitely have the ability to bring you back to the hidden immortal continent." At this time, Sun Jian simply prostrated himself in admiration of Xiaohua. What kind of place was the heavenly prison? No cultivator could escape from this place, but Xiaohua was actually able to come out alive. Moreover, Xiaohua's current cultivation was far beyond his imagination. Sun Jian respectfully says, "Yes, Immortal Zhao's methods, I know them very well. I called you out today because I have something to tell you." Xiaohua opened his mouth and explained, "If you and I want to leave the ruins, defeating the Devil Clan is the most important thing. Only when they retreat can the transmission channel open. Of course I can command the troops to fight the enemy," Sun Jian said carefully. "However, you and I are outsiders. How can we command the cultivators of the ruins? Holding the commander's seal but not being able to control the hearts of the people is a military taboo. How can the cultivators of the ruins listen to our orders?" Xiaohua laughed. "We naturally have our own disciples." "Immortal Zhao's own disciples?" Speaking of this, Sun Jian's face suddenly changed. He looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. However, looking at Xiaohua's indifference, he became somewhat pensive. Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror, threw it in the air, and said with a smile, "Since the Kunlun immortal realm can accommodate immortal Qingyuan, then my disciple can also be placed inside." Alas, immortal Xiao still knows this secret in the end. Immortal Qingyuan Sun Jian looked at the Kunlun mirror that flickered with a mysterious brilliance under the sunlight and sighed slightly. Xiaohua's heart moved. Thinking of what Sun Jian wanted to say in the heavenly prison, he rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "In this world, there is no secret that can never be known by others. Since I got the Kunlun mirror, I naturally know the secret of the Kunlun mirror and the Kunlun immortal realm. From this point of view, the others." At this point, Xiaohua's mind suddenly lit up, as if he had understood something. He forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart and probed, "Other treasures, such as the secret of the Peng Lai immortal realm, are naturally nothing. Actually, the immortal emperor also has his own difficulties." Sun Jian fell into Xiaohua's trap. He did not hesitate and said, "The immortal emperor wanted to search the entire hidden immortal continent, so he had to control the clear sky mirror. And the clear sky mirror, in essence, it is a Taoist heavenly spiritual treasure. Even though it has been reforged by my Confucian senior, without the constant nourishment of the Taoist heavenly spiritual qi, it cannot be fully utilized. As the leader of the Confucian cultivators, the immortal emperor was in charge of the immortal palace. Of course, he could not cultivate the Taoist techniques. Therefore, he had no choice but to take out the core of the clear sky mirror, which formed the Peng Lai immortal realm." "Hee." Xiaohua sneered, "The immortal emperor has a good plan. Not only did he use the Peng Lai immortal realm to imprison my Taoist heavenly spiritual qi 5th grade and above cultivators, but he also used them to nourish the clear sky mirror. Then, he used the clear sky mirror to search the entire hidden immortal continent and capture my Taoist cultivators." Sun Jian was a little embarrassed, as if this was something he did. He smiled and said, "This was not done by the current immortal emperor. It's the same for everyone." Xiaohua replied indifferently, Actually, Sun Jian explained again, the immortal emperor kept the Taoist heavenly spiritual qi 5th grade and above cultivators captive for the clear sky mirror, but it also protected the Taoist heavenly spiritual qi so that they would not be killed by the Confucian noble families on the hidden immortal continent. Other than these two reasons, there is a third reason, right? Xiaohua smiled and said, controlling the clear sky mirror means controlling the Penglai immortal realm. At the same time, he also controls all the Taoist heavenly spiritual qi 5th grade and above cultivators. If the immortal emperor is useful, he can also make these Taoist cultivators work for him to resist the Confucian noble families, right? Sun Jian's expression changed slightly. He shook his head and said, I don't know about this. Moreover, I ask that you keep this secret for the immortal emperor. Otherwise, the immortal palace will not be stable, and the Penglai immortal realm will not be peaceful. Why would I say anything more? Xiaohua said bitterly, unless this Xiao kills you right now, you will definitely tell the immortal emperor about the Kunlun mirror. If this Xiao says it, the immortal emperor will probably tell the whole world about the Kunlun mirror. This Xiao won't have any peaceful days in the future. Moreover, in order to weaken the immortal emperor's power, those Confucian noble families might attack the Penglai immortal realm. Our Taoist cultivators will have a hard time surviving. Yes, it's good that you know. I will also keep this a secret. Sun Jian naturally knew that Xiaohua would not kill him for no reason. He looked at Xiaohua and nodded slightly. All right, Sun Jian. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said, wait a moment. I will bring my Fortune Gate disciples out of the Kunlun immortal realm. Let's see how you plan to arrange the troops. If you have any orders, I will not dare to disobey. For his own safety, Sun Jian had to agree to Xiaohua's arrangement. He replied without any hesitation. Xiaohua looked up and flew to a plane. The Kunlun mirror in his hand trembled and the green-robed Xiaohua, Confucian cultivator Xiaohua, and the others changed their appearances and flew out. They cupped their hands toward Xiaohua and stood in the air without saying a word. As for Sun Jian, who was standing beside Xiaohua, they did not even look at him. Sun Jian used the clear eye technique to check the cultivation of these clones. He could not help but suck in a few breaths of cold air. Not to mention the green-robed Xiaohua, the soul cultivator Xiaohua, and the dragon vein Xiaohua's cultivation. Even the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's cultivation was half a level higher than his. Although it seemed that their strength was only half a level higher, Sun Jian could clearly feel that the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's strength was not just half a level higher than his. Sun Jian's surprise did not stop there. Seeing thousands of nascent soul and spirit-severing disciples come out in a line and stand behind the green-robed Xiaohua and the others, Sun Jian's eyeballs almost fell out. In the hidden immortal mainland's Taoist country, when did so many experts appear? He almost wanted to shake Xiaohua's shoulder and ask, how did he teach these Fortune Gate disciples? However, thinking about the thousands of years he had spent in the Kunlun immortal domain, Sun Jian's heart calmed down slightly. After all, it was thousands of years, to have such great achievements was normal. However, when the 100,000 Fortune Gate disciples stood in the air, Sun Jian was completely dumbfounded. He did not even have the strength to be surprised and was too lazy to ask anything. He already understood that when Xiaohua was surrounded by him at the Black Wind Ridge, he had already taken all the Black Wind Ridge disciples into the Kunlun mirror. And after the heavenly prison's strange fate, these disciples had also become rare Taoist experts on the hidden immortal mainland. However, Sun Jian still could not help but feel excited in his heart. 100,000 100,000 The Fortune Gate's current strength is comparable to a 4th grade family? No, it's more than enough to compare to a 3rd grade family. If Xiaohua returned to the hidden immortal mainland, wouldn't he become a grandmaster who can summon the wind and summon the rain? If he stomps his feet in the Black Wind Ridge, the entire hidden immortal mainland will tremble, right? Chapter 4095. Sun Jian. Xiaohua looked at Sun Jian's expression and pointed at him. These are my Fortune Gate's disciples. They are all under your command. You don't need to pay attention to those immortal friends. They are just a few supervisors. They won't interfere with your deployment. You can even give them orders when you need them to do something. Okay, Sun Jian took a deep breath and nodded. Dao Master Zhao's disciples have high cultivation, but they haven't been trained. They can't fight for now. This son will first teach them the method of marching and setting up formations. This will take about 10 days. Okay. Xiaohua nodded. I'll leave the military affairs to you. I still have a secret technique to comprehend. Just let me know when you're ready. Also, Sun Jian seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly asked, do you have flying boats and demonic beasts in your Kunlun immortal realm? Some formations need to rely on flying boats to form. Of course. Xiaohua waved his hand and a huge lightning boat appeared in the air. Sun Jian's eyes flashed and he nodded. How do I control this flying boat? Just leave it to him. Xiaohua pointed at the green-robed Xiaohua and said, let him control the flying boat. Then I'll have to trouble immortal friend. Sun Jian looked at the green-robed Xiaohua and smiled. How should I address immortal friend? I am lightning immortal. The green-robed Xiaohua said in a dignified manner and flew onto the lightning boat. Damn it, a Dao Gate cultivator with at least an 8th grade essence force is steering this sun's boat. Sun Jian thought. I'm afraid I won't encounter such a fortuitous encounter again in my life. Fortunately, Sun Jian didn't have time to ask for the names of Confucian cultivator Xiaohua and bone-tempering Xiaohua. Otherwise, he would have been scared stiff by the names of Wenchu and Heavenly Man. Sun Jian didn't mention the 100,000 Fortune Gate's elite disciples. Xiaohua flew more than 10,000 li away. He released his divine sense and sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. Immediately, Xiaohua closed his eyes and meditated for half a day. When the 3 suns slowly set down, his hands slowly formed a seal. This was the karma seal that Xiaohua had comprehended in the space. However, just as Xiaohua was forming hand seals, he stopped again. He pinched his chin and thought for a while, then he waved his hand and released his disciples, including the black bear, white lion, and golden eagle. Master? Everyone appeared in midair, not paying any attention to the situation around them. They all bowed respectfully. The black bear spirit and the other 2 demons were even more cautious. They stood behind the disciples and knelt down. Greetings, old master. Xiaohua didn't say anything. Instead, he swept his gaze across the disciples one by one. The boy from before had already become a void refinement realm expert, and he was also a grandmaster who could establish a sect. Yuan Ye, Fu Jiwen, Wang Bianfei, and Wu Tian were still single for thousands of years. They spent all their time on cultivation. As for Chang Yuan and Yu Zhongquan, Lu Yi and Jiang Hong, they were different. Chang Yuan and Yu Zhongquan had gone through 3 lives of love and finally married in Xiaohua's space. These thousands of years were enough for their descendants to form an aristocratic family. In Xiaohua's Shenhua continent, the Yu family was also one of the 2 famous aristocratic families. As for the other aristocratic family, it was naturally the Lu family left behind by Lu Yi and Jiang Hong. Yu Zhongquan and Chang Yuan were an engaged couple. It was normal for them to love each other and marry each other. Lu Yi and Jiang Hong didn't have any official marriage. However, one was from the dragon race and the other was a cultivator of the Dao sect. They didn't care about these formalities. Besides, with Fu Jiwen as an example, they didn't need to use any aphrodisiac pills. The man and the dragon had already dual cultivated long ago. However, it was also strange. After the dragon race mated with the dragon race, there were very few chances for the dragon race to reproduce. However, there were many descendants of the dragon race and the dragon race. In the same thousands of years, the Shenhua continent's Lu family was more than 3 times stronger than the Yu family. Moreover, the giant dragons that Xiaohua killed in the stacked Jade Legacy realm were now very useful. They were taken by Lu Yi for his descendants. Even, Jiang Hong also begged the dragon vein Xiaohua to open up a place like a big lake in the space, so that some descendants with pure dragon blood could cultivate inside. After looking at the disciples, Xiaohua withdrew his gaze, raised his hand and said, "You all can get up." After speaking, he said solemnly to Yu Zhongquan and Chang Yuan, "Disciple, Master was a little reckless. I didn't expect that there would be such a big tribulation. I actually left the hidden immortal continent for so long. I let you all experience the tribulation with Master. You can't see your parents again in this life. If Master had known this, I would have forcibly taken them into the Kunlun mirror like how I dealt with the Fu family and let your parents enjoy the happiness of family reunion. Master, you have already given us a lot. Only by raising children can we know the kindness of our parents. We are all old farts for thousands of years. Looking at our descendants, we also understand the painstaking efforts of our parents. Although we can't fulfill our filial duties in front of them, we can still help the Yu family grow in Shenhua continent. This is more important than anything else. Yu Zhongquan was no longer the hothead he had been in the past, and he answered in an organized manner. That's good. Xiao Huan nodded, looked at Wang Bianfei, and said with a smile, Fortunately, Master brought Bianfei's mother to the Kunlun immortal realm. Otherwise, Master would feel guilty for a lifetime. Wang Bianfei smiled slightly. Master is too soft-hearted. Before Mother left, she said that meeting Master was the greatest opportunity in my life, and asked me to serve Master well no matter what. My parents also said the same. Fujiwen said, when they first came to the Kunlun immortal realm, they were still complaining. However, as time passed, they saw that disciples' cultivation was getting more and more profound, so they didn't say anything anymore. When Master gave them the rejuvenation pill and increased their lifespan by dozens of years, they admired Master even more. Forget it. Xiao Hua said with a smile, there is no perfect thing in the world. Master has already tried his best to help you. There is no need to mention these things again. Master, could it be that we have already returned to the hidden immortal continent? Lu Yi was the most alert. He looked around and asked Xiao Hua's words. Of course not. Xiao Hua shook his head and explained the same words again. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed and they also rubbed their palms. After all, they were all experts around the void refinement realm and had never fought with outsiders, so they were inevitably eager to give it a try. Wu Dun. Xiao Hua looked at Wu Tian and asked, What do you feel in your heart? Wu Tian's cultivation method had already deviated before he reached the gold core realm. After being corrected by Xiao Hua and cultivating in the space, although he had also stepped into the void refinement realm, he was still half a level lower than Lu Yi and the others. However, he knew that his aptitude was limited and he had magical powers that others didn't know about, so he wasn't jealous. He just focused on comprehending the divination technique that Xiao Hua taught him. At this time, when he heard Xiao Hua's question, he hurriedly said respectfully, Yes, Master knows. Disciple already had some feelings in the Kunlun immortal realm, but here, those feelings are all gone. If you want to know, you have to cast a spell. However, the palpitating feeling that Disciple had on the hidden immortal continent has long disappeared, and there is even a feeling of clarity. Good. Xiao Huan nodded and looked at the black bear and the other two demons. He asked, The three of you should also be training. Although the black bear, white lion and golden eagle had obtained Xiao Hua's inheritance, after all, their bloodline was not pure, and their aptitude was limited. For thousands of years, they had only cultivated to the moon-picking realm. Of course, the star-picking realm was already inconceivable in their eyes. At this time, hearing Xiao Hua's words, the black bear smiled and said, Master, I don't want any training. I still want to guard the cave for you. Xiao Hua scolded, That's a matter for the future. When I return to the hidden immortal continent, I will definitely establish a sect. You will guard it for me. That's good. The black bear replied with a smile, If Master is willing, then I will accompany Brother Lu and the others to train together. Go. Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed at the place where Sun Jian was and said with a smile, The Fortune Gate's disciples in the Kunlun immortal realm are all there. You can go with them. Yes, I will go over now. The black bear spirit nodded hurriedly. Yu Zhongquan and Lu Yi looked at each other and said at the same time, Master, our two aristocratic families have many descendants with profound cultivation on the Shenhua continent. Instead of letting them fight among themselves in the Kunlun immortal realm, why don't we let them come here to train? Wherever there were humans, there would be internal strife. Xinhua continent was the same. Although Yu Zhongquan and Lu Yi were disciples of the same sect, they had many descendants. The two families were known as the two great families of the Xinhua continent, and they definitely had the heart to compete. Sometimes, the descendants of the dragon race were brainless. The two families did not have any major disputes, but there were constant small conflicts. Yu Zhongquan, Lu Yi, and even the green-robed Xiao Hua could not do anything. After all, they could not suppress them by force. Therefore, when the two of them heard that there was such a good opportunity, they naturally thought of the matter that gave them a headache. Hee, that's true. Xiao Hua was naturally clear about the matters of the Xinhua continent. He nodded and said, "You two discuss and see who should come out to train." The two of them discussed for a while and came up with a list of several thousand people. Xiao Hua looked at it and said with a smile, "Granny, these descendants have gone through a bloody battle. If we let them go back to the burial immortal realm, I'm afraid that something big will happen." No matter how big the matter is, it can't be compared to Master's matter. Lu Yi replied with a smile, "This disciple is letting them out to train because of this?" Xiao Hua shook the Kunlun mirror and released the several thousand people. Sure enough, each of these descendants had an imposing appearance and were dragons and phoenixes among men. The several thousand people stood in the air and were divided into two groups. They first kowtowed to Xiao Hua, then to the two families' ancestors. Xiao Hua laughed in his heart. The green-robed Xiao Hua was a godlike existence in the space. Even if the people of the Xinhua continent ignored their own parents, they would not dare to disrespect Xiao Hua. Chapter 4096. This place is not the hidden immortal continent. As for where it is, you don't need to know. Xiao Hua said, "You just need to remember that your nascent soul cannot be exposed in space. You can use all other divine abilities." Everyone bowed. Then, Lu Yi and Yu Zhongquan said a few more things to pay attention to, and all the disciples flew to Sun Jian's location. After everyone left, Xiao Hua finally calmed down and sat down. Xiao Hua's 10 fingers moved slightly, and afterimages flew out. Between the afterimages, the 10 fingers were so fast that their outlines couldn't be seen, as if they hadn't moved at all. However, between the afterimages, an obscure fluctuation gradually appeared. It either flew in all directions or fell into the void. Within the fluctuation, the world's origin qi produced by Xiao Hua condensed into tiny crystal threads. Xiao Hua's body began to give birth to a strange power. Within this power, the moaning of gods and ghosts could be heard. As the crystal threads flickered, the mysterious veil of an extremely strange kingdom was lifted. Under these strange phenomena, the space within 100 miles began to distort. A powerful force rushed into Xiao Hua's body in the opposite direction. Xiao Hua didn't need to use any other spells. After Phoenix body Xiao Hua left, his body condensed from the world's origin energy began to form hundreds of millions of vortexes. These vortexes swallowed strands of crystal threads, and after the powerful force entered his body, they crazily rushed in all directions. As a result, the fluctuation around Xiao Hua's body became more and more intense, causing everything in the surroundings to be affected. Even the 3 suns in the sky and setting in the west where the fluctuation was emitted were covered in layers of halos. The sun at the edge of the fluctuation was greatly stretched. The moon, which was opposite the sun, was now gradually emitting a bright brilliance. The moon, which was supposed to be bright at night, appeared a few hours earlier. In the sky, which was still bright, the stars had already poked their heads out. Along with the fluctuation, Xiao Hua's body gradually elongated, gradually thinned, and gradually became transparent. In the end, Xiao Hua himself almost turned into the fluctuation. However, just as Xiao Hua turned into the fluctuation, and the fluctuation was about to condense into the karma hand, Kacha, a thin layer of silver-white lightning appeared in the void. It fell on the surging fluctuation like a fountain. Wherever the lightning went, all the fluctuations were wiped out. Xiao Hua's body began to slowly reveal itself. Right behind the thunderbolt, in a dark place without any light, a mysterious figure suddenly appeared. The mysterious figure slightly moved while tens of thousands of strange mortal realms emerged from each line of the mysterious figure. The mysterious figure then said in an extremely deep voice, "That interesting human. When did he arrive at the great desolate realm? His cultivation is so fast? Oh no, it doesn't seem to be the real realm, but a speck of dust of the realm. Perhaps this extremely lucky human had accidentally wandered into that place. However, since he's already here, there's no need to go back." Every syllable of the shadow produced a string of lotuses in the darkness. These lotuses seemed to be the Buddhist lotuses of the Buddhist sect. However, if one looked carefully, there was a huge difference between them and the Buddhist lotuses. This was because the edges of these lotuses were condensed with a pitch-black color, and the core of the lotuses was a sinister, monstrous demon head. At the place where the voice fell, the shadow disappeared. There were no fluctuations, no sound of wind, and no changes in light and shadow. Xiao Hua's body appeared, and his eyes were filled with a silver-white color. When the flame flickered in the silver-white color, the silver-white color slowly retreated. The flame turned into a meteor and fell into his eyes. Only then did Xiao Hua's clear black and white eyes give birth to a trace of regret. Damn it! Xiao Hua couldn't help but secretly curse. Isn't this karma method too abnormal? This Xiao's current strength is comparable to a 9th grade essence power, but I'm still unable to activate it. It seems that if I want to complete this karma method, I'm afraid I'll have to ascend before I can do it. However, with my current cultivation, even though I can't activate the complete karma method, I can still see the faint outline of the karma method. This trip to the southwest border is a must. Moreover, this Xiao will definitely encounter some danger, and the result of this danger is a daunting experience without any mishap. Xiao Hua calmed down after obtaining the result. He withdrew his karma method, and in a flicker, his figure appeared beside Sun Jian. At this time, within several hundred li to Sun Jian's left, 100,000 Fortune Gate disciples were arranged in different battle formations. They were dressed in blue and yellow robes, and were divided into 2 armies facing each other. Their magic treasures were flying in the air, and their magic power crisscrossed in the air. The atmosphere was gloomy and orderly, and it was 100 times stronger than before. Seeing Xiao Hua coming over, Sun Jian's cold face did not show any reaction. Instead, he raised his hand and waved it. An azure flag that shone like water floated in the air, and the blue army opposite Xiao Hua suddenly split into 2 groups, attacking the center of the enemy's formation. The yellow army that was attacked was obviously caught off guard, and they panicked in an instant. A flaw appeared in their strict battle formation, and in the next moment, an even stronger team flew out from the blue army. They descended from the sky and attacked the yellow army. Then, the blue army changed their battle formation again, and the yellow army was divided into several hundred smaller teams. Stop! Sun Wu waved his hand, causing the azure flag to disappear. Stop! He said. Following Sun Jian's order, the yellow army and the red army retreated at lightning speed, and they split into 2 orderly formations in the air. This is war. Sun Jian flew into the air and said indifferently, "There's no need to spend too much magic power, and there's no need to use high-grade magic treasures. As long as the soldiers work together, encircle and break the enemy's formation. In war, an individual's strength is negligible. Unless your cultivation is comparable to Taoist Master Zhao's. Otherwise, don't have any thoughts of being independent, because not only will you take your own life, but you will also take the lives of your comrades. Are far away in the ruins fighting the devil race. Since we were young, it's because we want to return to the hidden immortal continent. It's to train us so that we can have the qualifications to be proud of the hidden immortal continent. In the big picture, it's for our sect, for the reputation of the Fortune Gate, and for the reputation of the hidden immortal continent. We must not retreat in front of the devil race, and we must not let the ruins cultivators look down on our hidden immortal continent. Yes. The Fortune Gate's disciples raised their right fists and punched their left chests as they responded loudly. An iron-blooded aura that ordinary cultivators could not reach gradually emerged and rushed into the sky. Good. Xiaohua had naturally seen the aura of the Sun Temple's immortal soldiers and immortal generals. At this time, although the disciples could not compare to those immortal soldiers and immortal generals, Xiaohua could not help but admire Sun Wu for achieving such results in a short period of time. Sun Jian flew in front of Xiaohua and said, "Master Xiao, this General Sun Jian has received Master Zhao's order to lead the army. Because the time is short, this is all I can do. Master Xiao, please instruct me." Xiaohua nodded slightly and raised his hand to take out a weapon and handed it to Sun Jian. "General Sun, you have helped my fortune gate to train the disciples, and this Xiao thanks you for your hard work. This is a weapon forged by my fortune gate's blacksmiths. This Xiao represents my fortune gate to give it to the general. I hope that the general can use this three-pointed double-edged blade to kill the devil race in the ruins and wipe out the ghosts of the hidden immortal continent." Sun Jian had not seen his three-pointed double-edged blade since he was thrown into the heavenly prison. He had already forgotten whether it was sent flying by Sun Hao on the Black Ruins Mountain or lost in the heavenly prison. Now that he saw a familiar weapon, his heart warmed slightly. He knew that Xiaohua had the heart to keep his weapon in the Kunlun immortal realm. But when he received the three-pointed double-edged blade and poured his true qi into it, the blade emitted a buzzing sound. Sun Jian's face was filled with shock. He looked at the weapon in his hand in disbelief and whispered, This is this Sun's weapon?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "This is naturally General Sun's weapon. However, after being forged by my fortune gate's blacksmiths, this Xiao can tell the general that this weapon's advancement in the future is comparable to the Son of Heaven's sword." Xiaohua's words were not exaggerated at all. When he separated the yin and yang space, there were many magic treasures inside. When the green-robed Xiaohua refined the three-pointed double-edged blade, he had integrated the core of one of the magic treasures. This three-pointed double-edged blade would definitely become a natural treasure in the future. Of course, it would be comparable to the Son of Heaven's sword. Although Sun Jian did not know that his three-pointed double-edged blade had such good fortune, when he held the weapon in his hand, that weapon was like a living thing, unusually intimate with him. How could he not know that Xiaohua's words were true? "Thank you, Master Xiao." Sun Jian put away the weapon. After Xiaohua explained the refinement method to Sun Jian through voice transmission, his gaze swept over the Fortune Gate's disciples. A moment later, he said, "Today, all of you have fallen into a dangerous situation. What you will face is a choice of life and death. This is not a childhood game, nor is it a spar between fellow disciples, nor is it a battle between aristocratic families. This is a life and death battle. Only by going through this test of blood and fire will you be qualified to be my Fortune Gate's disciples. Disciples, go fight, display your talents to your heart's content. Only by killing as many devils as possible will you have a chance to live." "Yes." The group of disciples replied in an imposing manner. "Master Xiao." Just as Xiaohua was about to wave his hand to give the order, Sun Jian hurriedly stopped him and said in a low voice, "You are not a general now, it's not appropriate for you to give orders." This old man knows." Xiaohua laughed embarrassedly, "I'll let you give the orders." "There's one more thing." Sun Jian looked at the distant lightning ship and asked, "Do you have any more of these lightning ships? This general wants to divide the 100,000 soldiers into two groups so that they can compete and supervise each other." Xiaohua looked at Sun Jian and then at the distant green-robed Xiaohua, who was not standing on the lightning ship, and nodded. This old man naturally has more of these lightning ships, but, oh, this old man understands. Chapter 4097. While speaking, Xiaohua waved his hand. Another huge thunderbolt landed side by side in the sky. Sun Jian smiled. He pointed at one of the thunderbolts and said, "Demon Slayer army, this thunderbolt will be the boat for your army of 50,000. Everyone, get back to your positions." "Yes." Following Sun Jian's command, 100 or so disciples from the Blue Army flew out and landed on the thunder ship. A moment later, the thunder ship began to rumble. Then, the disciples split into different formations and landed on different parts of the thunder ship. "Demon-slaying army, get back to your positions." Sun Jian gave another order. Disciples of the yellow demon-slaying army drove the thunderbolts as well. Some disciples were on guard around the thunderbolts. More disciples were scattered around the thunderbolts. Fellow immortals, please. Only the green-robed Xiaohua, Xiaohua's doppelganger, Lu Yi, and other disciples were left in midair. Following Sun Jian's command, they also flew to different thunderbolts. Obviously, Sun Jian had already assigned them. Sun Wu looked at Xiaohua and revealed a trace of a smile. Taoist Master Xiao, which army did you choose? Don't be hasty. Xiaohua seemed to have thought of something. He clapped his hands and took out a jade eye ring from his chest. He handed it to Sun Jian and said, "These are some offensive and defensive formations that I have comprehended. They should be effective in military formations. You can take a look." But Sun Jian took the jade eye ring and put it away with a smile. It seemed that he didn't trust Xiaohua's formations. Xiaohua didn't say much. He smiled and said, "I choose the demon-slaying army." After saying that, his figure flashed and landed on the thunder ship. Sun Jian landed on the other thunderboat with the three-pointed, double-edged sword in his hand. He shouted, "Let's go!" Boom! The two thunderboats roared at the same time. The distance between them was pulled apart and they flew to the southwest. With Sun Jian's command and the 100,000 soldiers showing him the direction, Xiaohua was completely relieved. He just sat on the thunderboat and released his spirit. It covered an area of tens of thousands of miles and collected all the wandering souls in the space. Previously, when Xiaohua was at the Xiaoyu continent, he sowed the seeds along the way. Now, in the ruins, he harvested the souls along the way. The two armies did different things, but the mercy of the two armies was the same. Sowing seeds was for survival, and searching for wandering souls was also for survival. Even if Xiaohua's selfishness was for the sake of his own space, in essence, he had indeed saved countless lives. More than a day later, Xiaohua suddenly opened his eyes, glanced at the beautiful scenery of the lake, and said a few words via voice transmission. He looked at the beautiful scenery of the lake and the beautiful scenery of the lake. After a while, a smile appeared on Xiaohua's face. He closed his eyes again and continued to comprehend the time fluctuation that he had experienced in the heavenly prison. Faint thunderbolts flashed around the two thunderboats. In the time it took to smoke half a cigarette, they had already crossed a large lake. When they reached the second large lake, woo-woo, a chilly wind blew, and the lake below the thunderbolts suddenly shattered, turning into thousands of fragments that flew into the air. The fragments streaked across the sky, and blood seeped out from the edges of the fragments. Looking at the location of the large lake again, it had become a huge depression. In this depression, dense demon energy began to spread rapidly in all directions. Before the blood-colored fragments could reach the thunderbolts, the demon energy had already covered an area of nearly 1,000 miles. What was special was that this area seemed to have been prepared for an ambush. Every time the demon energy passed by, a fist-sized demon energy would rush out from under the ground, the lake, and the forest. Naturally, there were disciples on the thunderbolts who were on guard. Seeing this, how could they not know that they had fallen into the demon's ambush? Not good. The disciples' faces were filled with nervousness and excitement. They hurriedly sent a message to the rear according to their previous training. Moreover, they were somewhat flustered as they set up a defense. Sun Jian stood on the other thunderboat with a steely expression as he watched silently. Xiaohua had already sent a message to him, and he knew that there was a demon's ambush. However, in order to train the Fortune Gate's disciples, he did not warn them in advance. Instead, he let the thunderbolts take the initiative to enter the ambush and observe the disciples' reactions. As expected, although the two armies had rehearsed the battle several times, it was inevitable that these disciples would make mistakes in a real battle. Xiaohua naturally could not see these mistakes, but they were so obvious in Sun Jian's eyes. Calm down. Sun Jian could not help but scold. Set up a formation according to this general's instructions. Don't panic. Xiaohua stood up and said indifferently, don't panic. Although the enemy is close, your heart must be calm. Everything must be in order. These two sentences seemed very ordinary, but they were like a calming stone. All the disciples paused for a moment, then began to set up a formation according to their memories and training. Under the control of the disciples, the two lightning bolts were also hovering in midair in a parallel manner. At this moment, the demonic aura billowed. Not only did it continue to spread in all directions, but it also swept the two thunderbolts from bottom to top. Those flying fragments with blood-colored edges were now engulfed by the hurricane, shrouding nearly 1,000 miles of space. The fragments flipped rapidly in the air. Regardless of whether it was the color of blood or the rays of light that shot out, they all presented a strange color. Of course, the Fortune Gate's disciples on the two thunderbolts were not idle. The 100,000 disciples did not fly out from the thunderbolts. Instead, they stood in formation on the thunderbolts. The lightning on the thunderbolts flickered slightly, and it was obvious that they were ready to attack. The 1,000 li of space suddenly became silent, and even the wind froze. This silence only lasted for a few breaths. Chi. A soul-shaking sound emerged from these fragments at the same time. Then, like a fountain, blood spurted out from every fragment. The blood instantly filled the entire space, and from the blood, shadows of the devil race rushed out. Roar, roar. At the same time, there were shadows of the devil race in the hurricane of devil chi. Each of them was clad in pitch-black armor and held a devil artifact in their hands. They flapped their wings and pounced with bared fangs and brandished claws. Something is strange. Xiao Hua sensed the faint teleportation fluctuations in the air. He also released his divine sense to observe the appearance of the devil race. Even so, Xiao Hua couldn't see how these devil race arrived here through the void. However, after the devil race appeared, the fragments did not disappear. Instead, they continued to emit blood-red light. The blood-red light crisscrossed and formed a strange devil formation. Moreover, there were faint fluctuations in the devil formation that made people feel dizzy. All teams, pay attention. Sun Jian's voice sounded. Tech, rumble. Following Sun Jian's order, all kinds of magic treasures rushed out, diluting the blood-red light emitted by the fragments. In an instant, those strange fluctuations were wiped out. Moreover, after the magic treasures flew out, the two thunderbolts shot out lightning bolts, extinguishing the blood-red light several li away from the thunderbolts. Even the magic treasures had no chance against the fragments, and many of them were destroyed by the lightning bolts. After the lightning bolts disappeared, a strange bugle call sounded from the devil chi. The devil race that was dancing in the blood-red light and devil chi began to reveal themselves. They formed a formation and pounced towards the thunderbolts. Kill! Sun Jian calmly ordered. Magic treasures flew out like rainbows, and lightning bolts fell like rain. The Fortune Gate's disciples' magic treasures were not something the Ruins Cultivator's magic treasures could compare to. Which one of them wasn't powerful? Some of the Fortune Gate's disciples were even holding spirit artifacts. When these magic treasures landed on the devil race's body, they would be severely injured at best, and in the worst case, their bodies would be pulverized. However, although the Fortune Gate's disciples were powerful, the devil race seemed to have no end. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the devil race had already broken through the Thunderbolt's defenses and arrived in front of the Fortune Gate's disciples. Disciples, form a formation attack. Sun Jian coldly watched, and when the devil race got closer, he waved his hand and shouted, "Kill!" After receiving the military order, other than the disciples guarding the Thunderbolts, the rest of the disciples on the two Thunderbolts flew out to meet the devil race's enemies. Lu Yi, Jiang Hong, Yu Zhongquan, and the others also led some disciples out. In just a few breaths' time, the area within 1,000 li was filled with battle cries, and blood-red light gradually splashed. Whether it was the devil race's black chi or the devil race's radiance, they were all entangled together. Xiao Hua frowned slightly. He released his divine sense and covered the surrounding space. Since this was a battlefield, the Fortune Gate's disciples would inevitably suffer casualties. Xiao Hua would not let these disciples become wandering souls. He had to keep them in the dark side of the space. Sure enough, in less than half a cup of tea's time, the Fortune Gate's disciples began to fall one after another like falling gourds. Xiao Hua collected the souls of these dead disciples, and similarly, he also collected their corpses and other belongings on the thunderboats. However, as more and more disciples fell, Xiaohua seemed to be unable to cope. Right at this moment, Xiaohua suddenly froze. He discovered something strange. Just a moment ago, a disciple had fallen, and Xiaohua was only focused on collecting the corpses on the side. He wanted to turn around and collect the rest later, but in the blink of an eye, that disciple's soul actually disappeared, leaving behind only the corpse falling down. Strange. Xiaohua's divine sense probed again, but he did not discover anything, so he continued to collect other souls. But after a while, Xiaohua discovered that more and more souls were disappearing. He had no choice but to stop. He narrowed his eyes and looked around the battlefield. Then, with a flip of his hand, the delusion breaker law eye opened between his brows. Sure enough, there were some faint green human figures and black devil figures on the battlefield. These figures were like flowing water, flowing to 8 different locations around the battlefield. And at those 8 locations, there were clusters of dense black light flashing with a strange aura. Oh, so there are devil race collecting wandering souls nearby to refine devil artifacts. Xiaohua understood and thought inwardly, the devil race in the ruins seems to be different from the devil race in the Dawn Rain mainland. The devil race's devil artifacts are heavy, and devil banners and other kinds of devil artifacts are rare. But here, devil banners are more common than heavy devil artifacts. Especially when the devil race besieged the ruins, not only did they seal the transmission array, but they also sealed the passage for wandering souls to enter the netherworld. There must be some unknown secret here. Chapter 4098. While Xiaohua was pondering, he naturally passed the information he had obtained to his several incarnations. The incarnations nodded their heads slightly and waited for Xiaohua's orders. At this time, the Fortune Gate's disciples had experienced a relatively dense wave of deaths, and the situation gradually stabilized. The number of devil cultivators attacking the Fortune Gate increased, and the number of Fortune Gate's disciples decreased. Roar! Angry roars came from all around the battlefield. The 8 devil chi spots suddenly spun violently, and 8,000 zhang tall devil cultivators appeared. They were merely devil monarchs, and each of them held a devil flag in their hands. The devil flags were about 100 zhang wide, and they were covered in strange patterns. Each pattern emitted a bloody shadow and a strong resentment aura. Xiaohua looked at the devil flags and was stunned. Isn't this devil flag similar to the banner of Qiyu wrapped around the stone statue in the dark side of this Zhao space? Could it be that the devil race attacked the fallen ruins to refine the banner of Qiyu? However, this was not the time for Xiaohua to think too much. After the 8 devil monarchs appeared, they each waved their devil flags. 8 faint dragon-shaped devil chi rushed out from the devil flags and madly pounced on the 2 lightning boats and the 100,000 Fortune Gate's disciples. Taoist Xiao, fellow immortals, it's time for us to make a move. Although Sun Jian did not know as much as Xiaohua, he was not flustered. When he saw the devil monarchs appear, he shouted loudly and waved the 3-pointed double-edged sabers on his face, pouncing on the devil monarch closest to him. Lightning surged around Xiaohua's body, and in a flicker, he appeared in front of a devil monarch. With a shake of his hand, the Kunlun mirror appeared in his hand, and a tricolored light beam pounced on the devil chi with a loud rumble. Boom! The tricolored light beam struck the devil flag, and instantly destroyed the devil chi. Moreover, the tricolored light beam did not stop, and continued to pounce on the devil flag. Seeing Xiaohua's aggressive momentum, the devil monarch hurriedly rolled up the devil flag and dodged to the side. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood light that turned into a ball in front of him, preparing to block the Kunlun mirror's light beam. However, at that moment, something strange happened. The Kunlun mirror's beam of light did not chase after the demonic flag. Instead, it stopped in midair and slowly dissipated. While the demon monarch was surprised, he raised his eyes to look at Xiaohua. At this time, Xiaohua was standing in the air in a daze, staring at the bloody light that had just spurted out from the fragment. Within the bloody light, several hundred demons with the strength of demon generals flapped their wings and flew out. Xiaohua's gaze fell on one of the extremely ordinary-looking devil generals. This demon general had a pair of wings on his back, and his pitch-black body was covered with a layer of scales that were engraved with indescribable demonic runes. On top of his head, there was a pair of pitch-black horns that did not seem very powerful. The demon general also seemed to feel Xiaohua's gaze and turned his head. When he saw Xiaohua's face and the Kunlun mirror in Xiaohua's hand, shock appeared in his eyes. Wu! Seeing an opportunity, the demon monarch rolled his demonic flag and several streams of demonic qi pierced through the air like flying swords, piercing towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua really did not understand why he had such a strange feeling towards this ordinary-looking devil general. Seeing the demonic flag attacking, he retracted his attention from the devil general and urged his true essence to land on the Kunlun mirror. Woo-woo! The Kunlun mirror shone brightly, and several beams of light flew out to attack those streams of demonic qi. With a rumbling sound, those streams of demonic qi were all annihilated. What a good Kunlun mirror! That demon monarch was a demon who knew his stuff. He praised and shouted, "Which sect's disciple are you from? This demon monarch seems to have never heard of the Kunlun mirror in the ruins." "Demon brat, you're good." Xiaohua laughed loudly. "This old man is Xiaohua, Taoist Xiao. As for where this Xiao came from, you don't need to know. You only need to know that this Xiao is a human. Since the demon race wants to sacrifice my soul to the flag, then don't blame this Xiao for being ruthless." Ha! There are still people who claim to be ruthless in front of this demon monarch. What a joke! While the demon monarch was laughing, he waved the demonic flag again, and it actually turned into a dark cloud of several miles in size and covered Xiaohua. "This is too funny." Xiaohua smiled faintly. As he spoke, he formed an incantation gesture and hit the Kunlun mirror. Buzz buzz. Another loud rumbling sound rang out. A five-colored beam of light that was several times bigger than the previous one rushed out of the Kunlun mirror and landed directly on the banner of Chiyu. With a sizzling sound, the demonic flag's black gas was destroyed by the beam of light. Then, the beam of light landed on the demonic flag and pierced through it. Hiss! Not only was the demon monarch shocked, even the devil generals who had just flown out were scared stiff by Xiaohua's Kunlun mirror. Ha! Similarly, as the demonic qi was pierced through, the souls imprisoned in the demonic flag flew out. Some of the stronger souls had just flown out of the demonic flag when they immediately let out wild laughter as if they were relieved of a heavy burden. Damn it! When the demon monarch saw that the demonic flag was damaged, his face changed rapidly. He cursed and opened his mouth, wanting to swallow the demonic flag and the souls into his mouth. Xiaohua smiled coldly and waved his hand again. Swoosh! A strong golden light blinded the eyes of all the demons present. Half of the soaring dragon scissors turned into a flood dragon and pounced towards the demon monarch. In the blink of an eye, it landed on top of the demon monarch's head. The demon monarch hurriedly waved the demonic flag in front of his head. Similarly, he waved his hand and took out a huge bronze demonic shield. Crack crack! Very easily, a golden light flashed. The soaring dragon scissors retracted its dragon tail and flew back proudly. Looking at the demon monarch again, apart from the demonic horn on his head that was split into two halves, the black gas and the demonic shield were also split into two. Countless demonic qi gushed out from the demon monarch's body, and there was also a large amount of blood aura mixed with devils rushing out. As soon as these devils flew out, they immediately roared and tried to escape. However, the demon monarch's body emitted a strange fluctuation. Not only did it cover these devils and the blood aura, it also attracted the demonic qi within several li of the surroundings to rush into his body. His demonic body was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Humph! Xiaohua snorted coldly again. This snort was like a thunderclap. Then, under everyone's gaze, the Kunlun mirror once again flashed a beam of light. It passed through the void and instantly hit the demon monarch's heart. Boom! A loud sound rang out. It was as if a mountain had collapsed and a mountain flood had burst out. At the same time, the demonic body fell to the ground with a loud bang. Fast, it's really too fast. Including the demon general that Xiao Hua paid attention to, the other demon generals that had just rushed out were also dumbfounded. This was the demon monarch. The demon monarch that they couldn't even look up to was killed by Xiao Hua in such a short time. The eyes of all the demon generals were filled with fear. Taoist Master Zhao's name and the might of the Kunlun mirror had already been deeply engraved in their hearts. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to erase it no matter what. Swish! Just when the demon generals were at a loss of what to do, the huge whirlwind rose up again. A powerful suction force appeared out of thin air. The roaring devils, the disorderly demonic chi, and the refined demonic flag suddenly fell into the suction force and disappeared without a trace. The demon generals turned pale with fright. They didn't understand how the demon monarch's corpse disappeared. However, they still looked at Xiao Hua with lingering fear. Following the activation of the demonic formation, their figures fell to various places one after another. Xiao Hua kept the demonic flag and the demonic body. His eyes slightly narrowed as he looked to his left. The demon general that gave him a familiar feeling earlier had already disappeared. At this moment, although the demonic formation had already covered the sky, in Xiao Hua's eyes, it was still somewhat weak. He turned his head to look at the location of the other 7 demon monarchs. His doppelganger had already easily killed the demon monarchs. The demonic flag that was exactly the same as the one he kept in his space had also fallen into his doppelganger's hands. As for his disciples, they were still bitterly fighting with the demon monarchs. However, it seemed that they had already gained the upper hand. Sun Jian was a Confucian warrior. He was the nemesis of the demon monarchs. That 3-pointed, double-edged blade was also refined by a spiritual treasure. When Xiao Hua's gaze fell on it, the 3-pointed, double-edged blade had already pierced through the void. It was precisely the demon monarch that was preparing to escape. Hehe, General Sun is indeed mighty. Xiao Hua laughed loudly. His figure swayed. His mind had already collected the demon monarch's body. The demonic flag was also in his hand. Although Sun Jian didn't know why Xiao Hua wanted to take the demonic flag, he didn't care. He nodded toward Xiao Hua and flew back to the thunderboat. His eyes flashed with a clear light as he carefully observed the battle situation around him. Within the demonic formation, Xiao Hua didn't have any restrictions. After teleporting a few times and collecting the few demon monarchs' bodies and demonic flags, he also returned to the thunderboat. Sitting down cross-legged, Xiao Hua's mind entered the dimension. In the inside of the dimension, the banner of Qiyu was emitting a dim halo, sucking in the demonic bodies, devil energy, devil flame, and many other things that Xiao Hua had collected into the dimension with his nether origin energy. Whenever there was a surge of devil energy, the halo of the banner of Qiyu would flicker, as if it was very happy. A few other demonic flags that looked similar to the banner of Qiyu were also revealed in midair. Under the demonic flags, in the blood ocean, there were many helplessly crying out helplessly. They were the souls and fiends of the demon clan that Xiao Hua had collected into the inside of the dimension. The more fiends there were, the redder the blood ocean became, and the purer the blood light that was transmitted into the nether lotus and nether bamboo from the blood ocean. Xiao Hua looked at the few demonic flags, then raised his hand and pointed at them. Rip! The demonic flags were torn into 2 halves, and millions of souls rushed out from them. There were men and women, young and old, and there were even many things that didn't have the shape of a human. All of these souls had a dull expression, and they looked extremely pitiful. Xiao Hua sighed. He knew that most of these souls were collected by the demon monarchs from the ruins, or from other realms. Their purpose was to refine a demonic item similar to the banner of Qiyu. He raised his hand and waved it, and the millions of souls rushed into the tree of nether fruit. Buzz! The tree of nether fruit also produced a rumbling noise in the blood ocean, and the entire inside of the dimension was slightly trembling. As the number of souls Xiao Hua collected into the inside of the dimension increased, the tree of nether fruit had expanded by more than 20 times. It no longer looked like a tree, but gradually, it looked like a continent, covering the blood ocean beneath it. Good. Xiao Hua beamed with joy. He already understood that the reason the demon clan besieged the ruins was to kill the cultivators in the ruins, and use the souls of these cultivators to refine their demonic flags. After he killed the demon monarchs, took the demonic flags, and even collected the souls in the demonic flags into the inside of the dimension. Not only did he destroy the demon clan's plan, he also added more people to his dimension. These souls were comparable to the souls of the cultivators in the higher realms of the hidden immortal continent. If they were reincarnated as humans, wouldn't their potential be comparable to ordinary humans? Wouldn't it be easier for them to cultivate? Wouldn't it be easier for them to ascend and become an immortal? Chapter 4099. Ascension. When Xiaohua thought of this, he pinched his chin and smiled bitterly. He didn't even know how he ascended after cultivating his scattered nascent soul. He didn't even know how his disciples ascended. Besides, his space was different from the hidden immortal continent. Where could his disciples ascend to? Let's talk about it later. Xiaohua smiled and tore apart the other demon flags, sending tens of millions of souls into the tree of underworld fruit. Seeing the tree of underworld fruit expanding rapidly and forming a continent, Xiaohua clenched his hands and a few demon flags fell into his hands. As he rubbed them, the demon flags turned into pure black crystal threads. Zhang Xiaohua, O Zhang Xiaohua, be my substitute and protect Xue Xue. In my name, I bestow upon you a divine ability. In the future, you can be the champion of the underworld and become the guardian of the underworld. Xiaohua murmured, and the crystal threads turned from demon flags fell into the body of the stone statue. Strange demon runes with the aura of the underworld slowly emerged on the surface of Zhang Xiaohua's stone statue. Then, Xiaohua stretched out his hand again. His index finger flashed with a faint crystal light, and he was about to touch the forehead of the stone statue. But when he was about to touch the forehead, Xiaohua hesitated and thought to himself, since my substitute is going to be the guardian of the underworld, she must cultivate the underworld's cultivation technique. Now that I don't have the underworld's cultivation technique, I can't use the demon world's banner of Qiyu to nourish the demon god. If I cultivate the demon world's cultivation technique, I don't think it's appropriate. Forget it, I'll just wait for the right opportunity. The crystal light on Xiaohua's finger slowly disappeared. But, after thousands of years of comprehension in the banner of Qiyu and nourishment of the underworld's origin power, the stone statue's features had become clear, and it looked exactly like Zhang Xiaohua. Xiaohua hesitated again. After all, the stone statue was still in gestation, which was the best time for cultivation. If he missed this time, the cultivation in the future would be at the Houtian stage. How could he have the innate advantage now? Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then opened his eyes, which flashed as bright as the moonlight. He clapped his hands and said with a smile, I was wrong. Didn't Ziming say it clearly that day in Meng Mountains? Hutu village was the descendant of Hutu great god. Who is Hutu great god? That is the ancient great god of the divinity transformation realm. I obtained the inheritance of the 12 great gods in the forbidden sea of spring. Although I have yet to cultivate to the level of Hutu great god, isn't the inheritance of Hutu great god the inheritance of the underworld realm? Then Xiaohua raised his hand and grabbed at his forehead. A dark green ball of light in the image of Hutu appeared in his hand. It had a human body, a snake tail, 7 hands behind its back, and 2 hands in front of it. It was holding 2 flying snakes. As soon as this ball of light appeared, the entire dark side of the space started to fluctuate strangely. Strands of strange things that even Xiaohua could not understand quickly fell into the ball of light. The whole ball of light started to tremble. Then, a strand of blood-red light rushed into the ball of light from the netherworld lotus and the netherworld bamboo. Xiaohua looked at the ball of light and waited for it to calm down before he slowly pushed the ball of light into the forehead of the stone statue. As if adding the finishing touch, the devil runes and nether threads on the surface of the stone statue moved slightly, giving birth to an indescribable color. The stone statue's eyes also emitted a kind of luster. It has only been a few thousand years. Xue Xue, master, you too can slowly grow up. I will wait for you here. 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 10,000,000 years, we will never be separated. Xiaohua muttered in his heart as his figure left the space. At this time, the battle on the battlefield was still in a stalemate. However, the two devil monarchs surrounded by Lu Yi and the others were in imminent danger. There was no need for Xiaohua and the others to make a move. It would only take a while for them to fall in the hands of these disciples. Of course, these two devil monarchs were not idiots. They had long wanted to escape. Unfortunately, they were not only facing Lu Yi and the other disciples, but also Xiaohua's avatars. Several avatars surrounded the devil monarchs and sealed the space around them. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Xiaohua looked around and saw the situation on the battlefield clearly. Although there were 100,000 Fortune Gate disciples, there were even more Devil World's forces. There were probably more than 200,000 Devil World's forces. Moreover, there was a steady flow of blood from the fragments hidden in the air. Those devil soldiers and devil generals were still rushing in. It's the same as the battle between the Shundao sect and the devil race. Xiaohua said inwardly, although the human race has the advantage and everyone's magic power is profound, they can't resist the devil race in the end. Moreover, as the devil race's encirclement drags on, the number of devil race's forces increases, and the human race's magic power consumption is also increasing. If there are no accidents, the ruins are most likely doomed. While Xiaohua was pondering, Jiang Hong's dragon chi hit the devil monarch's chest. A spirit treasure in Lu Yi's hand flew out and killed the devil monarch. Almost at the same time, the other devil monarch was also killed by Yu Zhongxuan and the other disciples. Xiaohua smiled faintly and released the Netherworld's origin force to collect the two devil monarchs' corpses. The devil flag also fell into the dark side of the space. Senior brother Lu. Yu Zhongxuan called out from the other side. Although little brother killed the devil monarch a few breaths later than senior brother, the number of devil race experts killed by our two armies seems to be about the same. If we want to compete, senior brother still has to show some tricks. Woo! Jiang Hong's figure swayed, and a dragon artifact drew a rainbow in the demonic array, piercing through dozens of demonic soldiers. She sneered, I don't need to use any tricks. I can defeat you with my current divine abilities. Ha, senior sister. Chang Yuan waved her hands, and two sword lights also killed a devil general. She retorted, then let's see who kills more devil race experts in the end. Kill. Lu Yi smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, Yuan Ya and Wang Bianfei also executed their divine ability and followed him into the devil formation. Master! Even at this time, Yu Zhongxuan didn't forget to turn back and call out, help us look out. While you're at it, prepare a few spirit treasures as rewards. Pay attention to the formation. Without waiting for Xiaohua to say anything, Sun Jian coldly berated. Yu Zhongxuan shrunk his neck and brought Fu Jiwen and Wu Tian to the other side. After Xiaohua dealt with the two devil monarchs and the devil flag, his figure swayed and landed beside Sun Jian. He asked in a low voice, Sun Jian, this old man feels that this devil formation is a bit strange. That's right. Sun Jian's face sank, as if he also sensed that something was wrong. He said in a low voice, the devil race in the ruins is a bit different from the devil race I saw in Hidden Immortal Continent. The devil race in Hidden Immortal Continent is closer to Body Cultivator. Although their divine ability isn't small, their spatial divine ability isn't this powerful. What's special is that these devil race seem to be born from bloodlight. Even if they are killed, they can still be reborn. After the devil race in Hidden Immortal Continent is killed, they are killed? Xiaohua asked curiously. This one doesn't know. Sun Jian answered, but this one knows that when we Confucian cultivators fight against the devil race, killing one devil race is one less devil race, and the number of devil race will decrease. Moreover, the number of devil race that can come through the space crack is limited. The devil formation they can arrange, how can it be as perfect as the one in front of us? Indeed, Xiaohua also used the clear eyes technique to observe the devil formation that had been set up, trapping all the Fortune Gate's disciples. Not to mention living people, even their souls couldn't escape. The 8 devil monarchs should be the main force of the devil formation. If it were any other time, the devil formation would have collapsed after they were killed, but what about now? Nothing has changed. Not only is there no change, the number of devil race is increasing. I'm afraid our Fortune Gate disciples won't be able to withstand it. Sun Jian turned to look at Xiaohua and said, "This is the first time our Fortune Gate disciples have accepted a battle. This one just wants to let them know the cruelty of war. Not being able to win this battle is not out of this one's expectations. Moreover, the devil race seems to be limitless, while our Fortune Gate disciples are limited. One devil race disciple is one less Fortune Gate disciple. It seems that Taoist Xiao, in the end, we still need to act." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This Xiao doesn't have the ability to completely annihilate these devil race disciples, but if fellow immortals and I can open the devil formation and let the Fortune Gate disciples escape, there won't be any problem." Then, Sun Jian's void-shattering eyes slowly opened. He scanned the entire devil formation and said, "We'll wait for another hour and see how the battle goes. If they really can't hold on, we'll make a move." "All right, we'll listen to you." Xiaohua smiled and said, "If we rashly make a move, I'm afraid it will affect the disciples' mood. But we still need to be careful. There are devil race experts more powerful than the devil monarchs coming." Sun Jian's eyes flashed with a silvery white light as he said, "If the devil formation doesn't collapse, the devil soldiers won't disperse, the devil race still has a backup plan." "Devil Venerable?" Xiaohua smiled faintly. His gaze swept over the several clones as he said indifferently, "Then this Xiao wants to see how many heads the devil Venerable has." Half an hour passed quickly. Xiaohua's consciousness enveloped the entire battlefield. The dead Fortune Gate disciples and the slaughtered devil race disciples didn't escape the netherworld origin power and were all sucked into the spaces inside. Seeing that the time was up, Sun Jian raised his hand and was about to give the order to retreat. Right at this moment, a thumb-sized blood bead broke through the air from the devil formation. Immediately, a cold and gloomy aura seeped out from the blood bead and the nearby space crack. Boom! Unfortunately, before the blood bead could fully emerge, the sword in Xiaohua's hand that had been accumulating power slashed down. The blood bead was instantly split in half. Blood gushed out from the blood bead, and even more undead flew out from the blood bead. Kacha! Several thunderbolts poured down like raindrops, avoiding the blood bead and falling into the space crack. Ta! An obscure sound came out, and at this time, an extremely strange hurricane rose up, falling on the blood bead. The blood bead shook slightly and instantly disappeared without a trace. "Oh!" A roar echoed out from the void as if the owner of the voice was extremely disdainful of Xiaohua's method of stealing. Whoosh! A brush appeared in the air as soon as the roar was heard. It looked very ordinary, but the tip of the brush was tinged with an emerald green color. The emerald green color was both cute and lively. Wherever the emerald green light passed by, sprouts would sprout out from it as if the entire space was coming to life. Wasn't this the soul cultivator Xiaohua's subbrush? Chapter 4100. There wasn't any loud noise, nor was there any huge fluctuation. A green sprout grew out of the spatial crack where the brush landed. The green sprout instantly filled up all the cracks and slowly grew into a small patch of green moss. "This is..." Sun Jian was dumbfounded. He seemed to have thought of something and blurted out, "Is this Ma Liang's divine brush?" There was no more movement in the void under the green moss. The demons that were about to come were obviously scared off by Xiaohua's strange method. In a moment, the hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers and generals in the demon formation began to reorganize their formation. The fragments in the air also slowly disappeared. When the bloody color of the fragments disappeared, the hundreds of thousands of demons also disappeared into the void. We won, we won. We defeated hundreds of thousands of demons. In an instant, the 100,000 disciples cheered. This was the first time in their lives that they were able to defeat enemies several times stronger than them. How could they not be excited and proud? The enthusiastic atmosphere spread over 1,000 miles. Even Sun Jian, who was always cold, couldn't help but smile at this time. However, just as the cheers died down, in the wind of the celebration, woo, a voice choked with sobs was heard. Everyone looked over and saw a thin female disciple. This female disciple was holding a long sword in her hand. Her body was covered in bloody scars. These scars covered the bright color of her red clothes. Moreover, the red clothes were also torn apart by the demons. But the strange thing was that although there was a large patch of blood on the back of the clothes were still in good condition. There was no damage. Looking at the hairpin in the female disciple's hair and the half of the clothes in her hand, everyone instantly understood. Although the battle was won, the two lovers were separated by life and death. Looking at the clothes on the back of the woman's clothes, when they were fighting against the demons just now, her lover must have protected her back. It was also to protect her life that her lover sacrificed his own life. In an instant, the joy of winning the battle was long gone. Even more disciples began to cry. After all, this battle was not easy, and the number of disciples that died was not small. The woman sobbed for a while before wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes. She swept her gaze across the crowd of disciples and said, "Senior brothers and junior brothers, martial uncles and martial ancestors, I've made a fool of myself. After all, we have achieved a rare victory. My husband, even if he falls into the cycle of reincarnation, he will definitely be as happy as we are." "Not bad," Sun Jian said. "Although we won this battle, this victory was not easy to come by. This victory was built on the corpses of the dead and injured disciples. It was built on our tears and blood. However, we cannot avoid war. There are many injustices and dangers in this world. We can only face them head-on in order to live a better life." "Yes, this disciple understands." The group of Fortune Gate disciples answered in unison. "Line up." Sun Jian waved his hand. "In the future, we will encounter more battles. If we don't want people to die, we will have to train harder. We will let the devil race know that our Fortune Gate's disciples are their nemesis." Sun Jian was indeed a good commander. With just a few words at the crucial moment, he ignited the disciples' passion. Everyone wiped away their tears and shouted, "Victory, victory." After everyone lined up, they boarded the lightning boat. The lightning boat rumbled as they set off for the southwest border. Xiaohua turned his head with confusion in his eyes. He looked at the place where the smell of blood had just dissipated. He thought to himself, "That devil general, why does this Xiao feel familiar? Could it be that devil general is related to second senior brother? Or his disciple? This is really strange." Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart suddenly quivered. A kind of ecstasy rushed to his heart. His granny, could it be that this Xiao was born in the ruins? This place not only has the Misty School, but also the familiar Yu Mingxin and the devil race. Could it be that the things that this Xiao can't remember all happened in this ruins? But this ruins doesn't seem to have any common people, nor Lu Zhen. The two lightning boats and close to 100,000 Fortune Gates disciples set off for the southwest border. Along the way, not only did they encounter the devil race's attacks, but they also encountered the other Dao Gates army. The ruins cultivators were naturally surprised to see strangers, but when they heard that they were reinforcements from the outside world, and each one of them had a high cultivation, they were pleasantly surprised. They reported this matter to the discussion hall and distributed some military supplies to them. Xiao Hua and the green-robed Xiao Hua didn't know how to lead an army and fight a war. They only wanted to take out the disciples in the space to gain experience, but they didn't know that fighting a war and gaining experience were two completely different things. Sun Jian naturally understood this, but before he had the chance, he didn't say anything. Now that he saw the ruins' local army, he naturally asked for everything he needed, including the current situation of the ruins, the positions of the 10 sects in the southwest border, and the layout of the ruins. Of course, the specific layout of the discussion hall couldn't be given to Sun Jian and Xiao Hua, but just from the information they received, the situation of the ruins was absolutely not optimistic. Not to mention that the entire ruins was completely surrounded by the devil race, not to mention that these devil race had already occupied a small half of the ruins, Not to mention that 30% of the ruins' disciples had died in battle. Just the ruins' cultivators' intentions towards the devil race and the origin of the devil race were still unclear. This was enough for Sun Jian to have a pessimistic judgment about the outcome of this war. And what was special was that the secret report from the discussion hall once again mentioned the devil race's ability to travel through the void. This was also an ability they didn't have when they encountered the devil race before. This ability allowed the devil race to appear and disappear unpredictably. The ruins' cultivators simply couldn't control the entire battle situation. Sun Jian first looked at the secret report from the discussion hall, then frowned and handed the secret report to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua saw Sun Jian's seriousness and hurriedly took the secret report and looked at it carefully. Very obviously, his focus was different from Sun Jian's. After he finished reading, he didn't find any records of Lu Zhen or other people from the secular world. He couldn't help but be a little disappointed, but he still said in surprise, "What? This ruins isn't a continent? But a star? Or even a star that has already been destroyed by 40%? At this point, Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of the scene he saw through the spatial crack when the transportation passage was torn apart. It seemed that the huge and already incomplete planet at that time was the ruins he was standing on. And that blood fog that spread outside the planet was the devil race that surrounded the ruins. And it should be like this. Sun Jian was a little absent-minded and answered, "From the current situation, whether it is the continent or the star, the devil race has the advantage. To defeat the devil race is too difficult." Xiao Hua looked at Sun Jian and then at the two thunderbolts and close to 100,000 disciples. He said with a smile, "Sun Jian, don't worry. Since this Xiao can bring you all out of the heavenly prison, of course this Xiao can also bring you all out of the ruins. Didn't this secret report say it clearly? Outside the ruins is the almost boundless star field. The entire star field is their so-called cultivation world. Other than the ruins, there are many other stars. Although this Xiao doesn't know what other methods can be used to reach other stars apart from the transportation formation, this Xiao feels that if we use the star field to fly to other stars, this Xiao feels that it should be easier than flying in the heavenly prison, right?" "No," Sun Jian said decisively, "this sun is not worried about my life. With Taoist Xiao and the Kunlun mirror here, this sun is not afraid of these things. This sun is worried about the cultivators of the ruins. We can leave as we wish, but these cultivators will be killed by the devil race and refined into blood spirits. Thinking about this sun has a headache." Sigh, Xiao Hua sighed and said with emotion, "This Xiao finally knows why the immortal emperor conferred you the title of immortal Lord Qingyu. Although your cultivation and strength might not be worthy of the title of immortal lord, your loyalty and benevolence are enough to make you worthy of the title. Sun Jian, you can do it without worry. If 100,000 disciples are not enough, this Xiao will give you another 100,000. If magic tools and magic treasures are not enough, this Xiao will give you more." Sun Jian raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "How many methods does Taoist Xiao have that you haven't used? If your loyalty to this Xiao surpasses that of the immortal emperor, this Xiao will naturally let you know." Sun Jian smiled slightly and did not answer. Instead, he looked into the distance and pondered with a frown. Xiao Hua's words were naturally not a joke. There were originally 2 million people in his space, and most of these people were cultivators. Many of them were even not inferior to the Fortune Gate's disciples. In particular, since entering the ruins, Xiao Hua had kept a lot of wandering souls into the inside of the space. There were even more blood spirits in the 8 devil flags. Roughly speaking, there were probably tens of millions of them. The quality of these wandering souls was extremely high, far surpassing the souls that Xiao Hua had collected in the hidden immortal continent. They rested on the underworld fruit tree for a while and then directly reincarnated into the Shenhua continent. These tens of millions of souls not only allowed the underworld fruit tree to form a continent, after reincarnating, they also increased the vitality of the space. The entire space's area increased sharply once again, reaching a distance of 80 million li. Not only was there land in the space, there was also an ocean. The various landforms were no different from the Dawn Rain continent and the hidden immortal continent. These reincarnated children's aptitude was outstanding, and they could understand the fortune gates cultivation techniques with just a hint. Although it was still a short time, Xiaohua believed that as long as the war between the ruins and the devil race continued, the ruins cultivators would gradually die out. However, the number of disciples in his space would definitely increase. Not to mention 100,000, even 1,000,000 disciples was possible. The night was silent, and even the rumbling of the thunderbolt seemed a little noisy. Sun Jian looked into the distance and said, "Taoist Xiao, with the speed of the thunderbolt, we should reach the White Cloud Monastery in 10 days. On our way here, we encountered 12 groups of ruins cultivators and 7 groups of devil race. Our Fortune Gates disciples' combat strength is far greater than before, but we also lost a lot of disciples. Now, we probably have less than 90,000. The 12 groups of cultivators also passed the news that the Devil Emperor was preparing to annihilate the 10 southwestern groups to the conference hall, but obviously, the conference hall did not believe this news. Or maybe they were restrained by the devil race and were unable to send troops to the southwestern border. If this news is credible, then the ones who will fight the Devil Emperor are the 10 southwestern groups and our Fortune Gates disciples. Chapter 4101. At this point, this Xiao can only hope that this news is false. Xiaohua answered indifferently as he looked into the distance. Sun Jian shook his head and looked meaningfully at Xiaohua, saying, "Taoist Xiao is deceiving himself. If you didn't feel it, why would you insist on coming?" Xiaohua shrugged and answered, "I just want to see if there are any advantages here. Taoist Xiao is probably the only person in this world who can take advantage of the devil race." Sun Jian did not expose Xiaohua. Instead, he smiled and said, "Wan Wuxin said that there was a devil emperor coming with 500,000 devil soldiers. No wonder the ruins meeting hall didn't believe it. Just look at the scattered devil soldiers we met along the way. A devil monarch brought 500,000 devil soldiers. If a devil emperor wants to destroy a sect, without 2 to 3 million devil soldiers, it would be impossible, right? In fact, the most important thing is..." Xiaohua took a deep breath. The southwest border is remote. Although the 10 sects are not big, the people there are brave and valiant. The 10 sects are not convinced by the Misty School, Fragrance Religion, and Shundao sect. Not to mention that there is no place for them in the meeting hall, they are even more disobedient to the meeting hall. The annihilation of the 10 sects may not have any effect on the ruins. Moreover, the 10 sects are spread over millions of li in the southwest border. If a devil emperor wants to annihilate the 10 sects, it won't be easy. Therefore, the ruins meeting hall doesn't care, doesn't believe, and doesn't care. This is the ruins' internal affairs, it has nothing to do with us. Sun Jian didn't like this kind of deceit and said, "We just do what we should do." "Good." Xiaohua nodded. This kind of Sun Jian is the Sun Jian that this Xiao is willing to befriend. "Many thanks, Master Xiao." Sun Jian nodded slightly, then emphasized, "If Master Xiao doesn't rebel against the Misty School, Master Xiao will always be this one's Master Xiao." "Your grandmother, why would this Xiao rebel against the Misty School?" Xiaohua waved his hand. "This Xiao has never done such a boring thing. As long as the Misty School doesn't find trouble with this Xiao will definitely ignore the immortal emperor." AI. Sun Jian looked at the Fortune Gate disciples on the lightning boat. "Master Xiao is making things difficult for this one." "It's all up to you." Xiaohua smiles and sits cross-legged on the thunderboat. "This Xiao is going to cultivate. You can slowly think about it. There is still a long time left. It won't be too late for you to make a decision after we return to the hidden immortal continent. As for what you think of doing..." Without mentioning Xiaohua's comprehension of the laws of time, the thunderboat rumbled forward as fast as lightning. It passed through the clouds and flew over the mountain forest. 10 days later, a faint mist appeared in the sky, and the mountain ridge became increasingly steep. The speed of the thunder ship had already slowed down. In front of the thunder ship, there were patrolling disciples who went out one after another to scout for news and movements. Although Xiaohua's other avatars could see further than them, they only cultivated by themselves and did not give any warning. However, after traveling for another half a day, Just as it was about to be late at night, Xiaohua suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, Sun Jian, issue a military order, call back the patrolling disciples. The White Cloud Monastery is right in front of us. The demons have already surrounded it and are attacking. Let's hurry and reinforce them. After saying that, Xiaohua raised his hand and waved. A mirror that was several dozen feet in size appeared in front of Sun Jian, and a huge mountain peak appeared in the mirror. This mountain peak looked like a dragon head that was protruding from the ground. The dragon head was surrounded by white clouds, and now, the white clouds were sealed by the blood formation. Streams of blood flowed out from the dragon head and landed on the dragon head before pouring down. The devilish qi around the blood formation devoured the white clouds crazily. Tens of thousands of demons brandished their devilish weapons and fought against the humans. As for the humans, they were wearing Taoist robes and Taoist crowns. They were the attire of Orthodox Taoism cultivators. Everyone! Sun Jian glanced at the mirror and raised his hand to pick up a small flag. He issued an order, stay alert, devil-slaying army, form the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation and prepare to face the enemy. Woo-woo! The two thunder ships emitted a strange sound at the same time. This sound seemed to be thunder, but the rhythm of the thunder was different. Even Xiaohua was confused when he heard it. The Fortune Gate's disciples on the thunder ship hurriedly flew out from their original positions and landed on different parts of the thunder ship. From the looks of it, they were forming two Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formations. This plentiful sun devil-devouring immortal formation was naturally recorded in the jade eyes that Xiaohua had given to Sun Jian. Initially, Sun Jian did not care about it. However, Sun Jian later realized that the capital star formation that Xiaohua had set up in the Black Wind Ridge was already so powerful. How could the formation that Xiaohua had given him be ordinary? Sure enough, there were a few offensive formations and a defensive formation that Sun Jian had never heard of before. When he saw how to set up the formation, Sun Jian was shocked. He might not know how to set up a formation, but he knew how to train an army. After the battle with the devil race, Sun Jian started to teach the tens of thousands of disciples how to set up the formation. Unfortunately, this Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation was too complicated. It was impossible to master it in a short period of time. Until today, the 90,000 disciples were barely able to set up the embryonic form of the formation. After the formation was set up, the speed of the thunder ship gradually slowed down and steadily advanced. The Fortune Gate's disciples in the space were personally trained by green-robed Xiaohua. Most of them knew the art of lightning. Everyone circulated their magic power and communicated with the lightning pool on the thunder ship. The several thousand feet long thunder ship was like a rooster formed by lightning. It raised its proud comb and flew towards the devil formation. In order to prepare for the battle with the Devil Emperor, Xiaohua had already recalled his clones. He flew out from the thunder ship and slowly flew behind the disciples. He released his divine sense and paid attention to the situation of the devil formation. Since the Fortune Gate's disciples had discovered the devil formation, the devil race naturally discovered the thunder ship. Before the two thunder ships could get close, devil qi rushed out from the blood water like a waterfall. More than a dozen devils riding on magic beasts charged out, brandishing devil artifacts in their hands. These devils were different from the ones the Fortune Gate's disciples had encountered previously. They did not have wings on their backs, nor did they have horns on their foreheads. Each and every one of them was tall and sturdy. Dense devil qi condensed into devil formations around these devils. The outer layer of these devil formations was suffused with blood-red light, and fist-sized devil runes were engraved on these devil formations. Looking at them, one's mind would be lost. These devils were not in human form. Some of them had 3 heads, and the 3 heads were either in the shape of beasts or birds. Some of them were even shapeless. Some of them had 6 arms, and each arm was different in length. They held different devil artifacts in their hands. Some of them were even shapeless, resembling a lump of pus and blood. However, there were tentacles that looked like tree branches sticking out from the pus and blood, and the tentacles were holding white bones. The magic beasts the devils rode on were also very strange. Some of them were just bones, while some of them were made of flesh and blood. Large chunks of pus and blood dripped down from their bodies. There were even some magic beasts that were made of blood clouds. Ghost heads screamed crazily within the blood clouds, and specks of dark green light could be seen clearly in the night sky. Blood flowed out endlessly like a river. Tens of thousands of devils had gathered in the air above them, and they had yet to get into formation. Sun Jian raised his hand and waved his three-pointed double-edged blade, giving the order, "Kill!" Following Sun Jian's command, the two lightning boats suddenly sped up. The two plentiful sun devil devouring immortal arrays emitted a devil-slaying aura. Tens of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples were enshrouded in lightning. Following the lightning boats, they were like roosters that tore through the sky as they charged towards the devil-slaying army. Rumble, zilala, rumbling sounds, lightning strikes, collisions, screams, wails, moans, blood flowing, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. All kinds of sorrowful cries and pain could be heard when the humans and devils clashed. The Pleiades devil-devouring immortal arrays pierced deep into the devil formation, tearing apart the blood and devil chi. The lightning within the immortal arrays also struck down the burly devils one after another. The rooster formation was slowly being compressed. As the lightning boats crashed into the devil formation, the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal arrays were compressed to the extreme. Swoosh! Following that, the devil formation also poured out like mercury. Those devils that weren't killed by the lightning bolts and blood rushed into the immortal arrays. The suppressed might of the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal arrays suddenly erupted, and all the devils within several miles were instantly killed by the lightning bolts. Seeing thousands of devils being turned into dust by the lightning bolts, the Fortune Gate's disciples were shocked. They roared and swung their magic treasures. Circulating their true essence, they maintained the same formation as they smashed towards the devils. Just as Xiao Hua and Sun Jian were watching the battle, a series of hoarse sounds like boulders colliding came from the devil formation. Following that, 4 balls of bloody pus flew out from the devil formation. They rapidly expanded in midair, and when the pus and blood fell, they turned into 4 devil monarchs that were thousands of feet tall. These 4 devil monarchs were different from the ones Xiao Hua had seen before. They all had strange appearances. Their heads were squarish, and they didn't have any facial features. They only had one big eye and a bloody mouth that was tens of feet wide. Everywhere else was covered in blood. Their figures didn't look like humans either. They had 3 tentacle-like arms and a dozen thick pillar-like legs. Above the blood clouds, the devil monarchs' bodies were like gourds. The surface of their bodies was jet black, and there were skeletons engraved on their bodies. When the devil monarchs appeared, the devil artifacts immediately rushed out from the blood formation. They clustered around the devil monarchs and soared into the sky. Although Xiao Hua couldn't see any expression in the devil monarch's eyes, he felt an indescribable shock in his heart. "It's a little strange." Xiao Hua turned to look at Sun Jian and transmitted his voice. "Didn't you say there was a devil emperor? How come there are still 4 devil monarchs? Could it be that Wan Wuxin's information was wrong?" Sun Jian shook his head slightly and replied, "Wan Wuxin's information might not be wrong. Don't forget, the devil emperor wants to exterminate the 10 southwest sections. These 10 sects aren't together, so if the devil emperor attacks at the same time, he might not be able to do anything." "What do you mean by being unable to do anything?" Xiao Hua smiled coldly and reminded, "I'm afraid these 4 devil monarchs are not simple. Maybe one of them is the devil emperor's doppelganger. Not to mention one, even if all 4 of them are, so what?" Sun Jian said proudly, "Can we still let them escape?" "Good." Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, "General Sun is responsible for 1 devil monarch, leave the other 3 to us." Chapter 4102. With that, Xiao Hua shook the Kunlun mirror. The green-robed Xiao Hua and the soul cultivator Xiao Hua flew out of the space and landed in front of the 2 demon monarchs. Roar! The 4 demon monarchs uttered unpleasant murmurs. They waved their demonic weapons and rushed toward Xiaohua and the others. True qi surged around Sun Jian's body. The five-colored clouds not only appeared under his feet, but also enveloped his body. In addition, Sun Jian's armor was overflowing with brilliance. He really was a majestic perfected Lord Qingyun. Sun Jian's strength might not be comparable to Xiaohua's, but his experience on the battlefield was better than Xiaohua's. In particular, he had followed the Immortal Palace's army everywhere and fought with the demon race more than once or twice. He didn't have the slightest fear in the face of the demon monarchs. That three-pointed, double-edged blade was a spiritual treasure that was about to advance to the Xiantian level. That weapon not only split the void, but also split the demon qi in half. Swish! There was a soft sound, as if a hand had torn his clothes. The moment the demon monarch's strange demonic tool came into contact with the three-pointed, double-edged blade, it was immediately cut open. The demon monarch was slightly startled. He opened his mouth wide, and a stream of filthy blood gushed out. This filthy blood was very powerful. As soon as it rushed out, it immediately produced dozens of thumb-sized whirlpools. In the middle of the whirlpools was a small black dot that looked like an eye. The blood waves that rolled up from the whirlpools corroded the entire space. Wherever the black dot passed, it produced a terrifying roar, and a heavy sound wave rushed towards Sun Jian's forehead. What was particularly special was that within 100 li of the demon lord, all the space was suffused with a bloody light as thin as a broad bean. Within these bean-sized bloody lights, one could faintly see the demon kingdom. Perhaps there were demon flames that soared to the heavens, or demons that covered the earth. Tens of thousands of killing qi seeped out from these bloody lights. Humph! Seeing the bloody river like waves and the bloody light like swords, Sun Jian sneered. He threw his three-pointed, double-edged blade into the sky. The blade turned into a three-headed silver dragon and pounced on the demon monarch. He also patted his own head. Puff! The five-colored true qi turned into a cherry blossom and rushed into the air. A mighty qi bloomed from the cherry blossom, completely enveloping the demon monarch and Sun Jian within 100 miles. With the rotation of the cherry blossom, the mighty qi condensed into thin needle-like pillars of mighty qi, which pierced into the bloody light with incomparable sharpness. Bang 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 bang. Sounds like beans being fried appeared within 100 miles. Void cracks appeared out of nowhere. When the five-colored cherry blossom arrived in front of the bloody river, it immediately went against the flow. A rumbling sound that shook the space was heard. A fluctuation that could overturn a giant mountain emerged from the cherry blossom and the bloody river. In the light and darkness, the bloody river flowed in reverse. Sun Jian's five-colored true qi not only destroyed the demon monarch's bloody river, but it also didn't stop there. It crashed into the demon monarch's body, causing the demon vein to let out an ear-piercing howl. Cracks appeared on the surface of the demon monarch's jet-black body, and the cracks spread extremely quickly. Several of the demon monarch's legs collapsed like glass. Not only that, the three-pointed, double-edged blade also pounced over. The demon monarch hastily fought back, and a few of his demon weapons were shattered by the three-pointed, double-edged blade. Even one of his arms was chopped off. The demon monarch didn't expect Sun Jian's battle prowess to be so strong. They had only met face to face, but Sun Jian was already able to injure him. He couldn't help but quickly retreat in fear. That big eye suddenly spun, and streams of demon vein rushed out from it, distorting the space and falling towards Sun Jian's head. Kill! Sun Jian roared angrily. The void-shattering eye between his brows slowly opened, and a thin, silver-white pillar of light instantly broke through the sky, piercing straight through the demon vein. Wherever the pillar of light passed, the demon vein exploded. With a loud boom, the pillar of light even entered the demon monarch's eye. Thief! With a muffled sound, the pillar of light sank into the demon monarch's head, passing through it like a chopstick sticking into tofu. Oh! The demon monarch let out a blood-curdling scream, and his figure quickly retreated again. Thief! With another crisp sound, the three-pointed, double-edged blade stabbed into the demon monarch's back. The jet-black demon vein gave birth to the shape of a huge shield, and the demon qi in the shield was dense. 10,000 blood shadows appeared in an attempt to block it, but they couldn't stop the three-pointed, double-edged blade. Ka-ka! With a crisp sound, the demon monarch's demon core was shattered, and a dense demon chi rushed out from the demon monarch's body. 10,000 blood shadows roared and wanted to fly back to the demon array to escape. Woo! Sun Jian was already prepared. The cherry-like five-colored true chi had already descended, and the entire space trembled as it was about to kill these blood shadows. Ah! Leave these to this Xiao. A loud laugh came from behind Sun Jian. It was unknown when Xiao Hua had mysteriously appeared. Under the mental barrier, the netherworld origin force rushed out, and all the demons were sucked into the blood river. Reverend's method is good. Sun Jian smiled and withdrew his true chi. He raised his head and looked in the other two directions. At this time, Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua took out a subbrush and a green dot fell on the demon monarch's body. It was as if green sprouts had sprouted from the demon monarch's body. Instantly, thousands of seeds sprouted from the demon monarch's body. The demon monarch let out a heart-wrenching howl, and his demon palms madly clawed at his body in an attempt to pull out the green sprouts. Unfortunately, as soon as his demon palms touched the sprouts, a green light appeared on his palms. In just a moment, the demon monarch's entire body was covered in green light. Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua didn't have to use any other divine ability. The subbrush's life force had already exterminated the demon monarch. Divine tool. Ma Liang's divine brush. It really is a divine tool. Sun Jian sighed. In his heart, he knew that although his Confucian cultivation technique was the bane of the demon race, it wouldn't have been so easy to kill the demon monarch without his three-pointed, double-edged blade. Furthermore, Xiao Hua's subbrush seemed to be even more powerful than his three-pointed, double-edged blade. It was even more powerful than the legendary divine brush. Seeing Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua succeed, the green-robed Xiao Hua was a little anxious. He had always considered himself as the Fortune Gate's ancestor, but today he actually fell behind Xiao Hua. This really made him lose face. The green-robed Xiao Hua rubbed his hands together, and two thunderbolts appeared in his hands like halberds. Ka-cha-cha! They hacked down towards the devil monarch's head, and he even opened his mouth. Woo! The seal of turning the sea rushed out, and the coiling dragon roared as it grabbed the seal and pounced towards the devil monarch's heart. Wherever the seal passed, waves of bronze ripples rippled out like water, breaking through the devil monarch's domain. The thunderbolts illuminated the devil monarch's ugly face, and it seemed as if they were about to split the devil monarch in half. It was also at this time that the demon monarch's single eye suddenly flickered with a trace of fire. An invisible whirlwind suddenly appeared around the demon monarch, and then, a frigid coldness spread out from the demon monarch. This frigid coldness was so powerful that the moment it appeared, the space around the demon monarch froze. One after another, pale white devils appeared from the void. The green-robed Xiao Hua's lightning bolts actually froze in midair, unable to strike down. Even the powerful seal of overturning sea was tumbling in midair, as if it had encountered an invisible barrier that it couldn't break through. Not good. Xiao Hua's expression changed greatly. His figure flickered as he tried to teleport over, but it was clear that the ice had already spread out for several hundred li. His figure blurred, but after a few li, he reappeared again. His eyes were filled with shock. However, in a short moment, lightning bolts surged around Xiao Hua's body, and an intense fluctuation appeared. Xiao Hua's figure turned into a rainbow as he forcibly charged into the ice domain. Woo! Above Xiao Hua's head, a beam of light shot out. The Kunlun mirror that had always been incomparably sharp also became slow at this time. Although the beam of light shattered a lot of ice, it was still very far away from the green-robed Xiao Hua. At this moment, the devil patterns around the demon monarch's body suddenly emitted a pale white brilliance. Within the brilliance, a large amount of devil chi and blood-red light rushed into the huge devil body. The huge devil body emitted a ka-ka sound, and the devil body rapidly changed and expanded. A humanoid devil emperor was about to appear. Woo! Before the devil emperor was completely formed, the several tentacles of the demon monarch had already transformed into a strange arm. This arm was entangled together like a vine, and every vine was a white bone. With a wave of this arm, it had already crossed the sky and pierced towards the green-robed Xiao Hua's head. A bone-chilling feeling emerged from the bottom of Xiao Hua's heart. Although he saw the lightning bolts surging around the green-robed Xiao Hua, and the space within 100 li was also clustered with lightning bolts, and the green-robed Xiao Hua was preparing to merge with the lightning bolts to fight against this white bone, Xiao Hua's intuition told him that his doppelganger would definitely suffer a great loss under this Devil Emperor's doppelganger. Seeing the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's subbrush landing on the ice domain, Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and the Kunlun mirror in his hand trembled again. A thick devil flame was born and rushed into the domain. Immediately, the devil flame condensed into the shape of a human. It was precisely the devil spirit Xiao Hua. Devil spirit Xiao Hua didn't reveal his appearance. His left hand suddenly waved, and a black light that swallowed all the brilliance flashed in midair. Devil Blade Murder transcended space and Devil Emperor's domain and appeared above Devil Emperor's head. Kill. It's actually kill. Even the Devil Emperor was startled by the appearance of the Devil Blade, and almost jumped out of his body. The Devil Emperor's ice domain was admittedly cold, but under the killing intent of the Devil Blade, it threw away its armor. When the entire space collapsed, the Devil Blade cleaved the Devil Emperor's incomplete body into two halves. Even the Devil Blade swallowed all the devil bodies in its path, and the Devil Emperor's doppelganger fell into the Devil Chi. Grandma, that was close. After the Devil Emperor was destroyed, the green-robed Xiao Hua hastily put away his magic treasure and teleported to Xiao Hua's side. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and released his divine sense to look at the place where the Devil Emperor appeared. He nodded and said, "Yes, this Devil Emperor should be 9th grade elemental power. It seems like he can break through to the realm of Devil Emperor at any time. Fellow Taoist really is not his opponent now." The soul cultivator Xiao Hua also teleported to Xiao Hua's side. He frowned and said, "The Devil Realm has always had few Devil Emperors. Why did we suddenly encounter a Devil Emperor who is about to become a Devil Emperor?" Fellow Taoist, don't forget, this place is not the hidden immortal continent. Xiao Hua reminded, perhaps this Devil Realm and that Devil Realm might be different. Chapter 4103. As the saying goes, the devil rises 10. The path of cultivation is still far away. Green-robed Xiao Hua looked very ashamed, and sighed as he followed Xiao Hua back into Xiao Hua's fleshly body. On the other hand, Sun Jian stood extremely far away as he looked at Xiao Hua, who was holding a demonic blade, with a thoughtful expression in his eyes. Xiao Hua looked at Sun Jian and did not explain anything. The Kunlun mirror shook and absorbed Xiao Hua into its bloodline. Xiao Hua and Sun Jian didn't say a word. They just stood on the lightning boat. One used the light of clear sight to check the attacks from the two immortal arrays, while the other used his divine sense to observe the changes in the demonic arrays. Amidst the deafening battle cries, the time it took to finish a cup of tea had passed. The Fortune Gate's disciples' fighting spirit was gradually worn down, and the battle was now in a stalemate. Moreover, as the bloody light from the devil array poured in, more and more devil cultivators flew out and joined the battle. The devil flames were beginning to suppress the Dao sect's momentum. Not bad. Seeing this, Xiao Hua nodded and said, "This demon race is clearly different from the demon race we encountered before. These devil cultivators are tough and powerful. In a one-on-one battle, other than the 4th grade and above cultivators, the rest of the Fortune Gate disciples are no match for them. But now, after several battles, the Fortune Gate disciples can cooperate with each other and rely on their formations to fight evenly with the same number of devil cultivators. It's really not easy. It's too early to make a conclusion." Sun Jian was not optimistic and said, "As the saying goes, the first drum beats the spirit, the second is weak, and the third is exhausted. Currently, our army is in a state of decline. If we can't survive this, we will be defeated." "Hee hee, this Xiao doesn't know." Xiao Hua laughed. "But, If the Fortune Gate's devil-slaying army and devil-exterminating army can't give birth to a military spirit under true sovereign Qingyuan's guidance, then which army in the world can resist the devil cultivators? Hee hee. Sun Jian laughed arrogantly and did not reply. Sure enough, in less than half a cup of tea's time, the Fortune Gate's disciples' tenacity was revealed. The experience and lessons they had learned from sacrificing more than 10,000 Fortune Gate's disciples' lives in the previous battles had paid off. Although there were casualties among the Fortune Gate's disciples, they still fought tenaciously against the endless waves of devil army. Not only did they block the devil army in front of them, they even sacrificed their lives for their fellow disciples. This unity of will formed a divine ability that was 100 times more powerful than magic power, blocking the devil army's attacks. Moreover, after enduring the devil clan's attack, the Fortune Gate disciples were like cultivators who had opened 100 meridians. Their movements had become more agile, and their attacks were like sharp blades piercing into the devil formation. The lightning bolt's flickering light tore the devil formation apart, and the several thousand zhang long lightning bolt charged into the blood mist. An unstoppable military spirit was gradually revealed. Kill! The Fortune Gate disciples cheered when they saw that the devil formation had been broken. However, the disciples' battle formation did not change. Instead, it was as steady as before, with layers upon layers of magic treasures. In the face of such battle-savvy humans, the devil army could only retreat, leaving behind more than 10,000 broken limbs as they fought and retreated. After the blood formation, there was another blood formation with layers upon layers of blood shadows. It was exactly what Xiaohua had seen with his magic treasure. At this time, the number of Dao Gate's cultivators fighting inside the blood formation was much less than before. Moreover, the surviving cultivators all had sorrowful expressions on their faces. They were at a disadvantage, and could be killed by the devil army at any time. However, these cultivators were pleasantly surprised when they saw the lightning bolt charging in. However, when they saw the Fortune Gate's disciples' attire, they were shocked. However, since the Fortune Gate's disciples were humans, and they had broken through the devil formation, these cultivators naturally knew the purpose of the Fortune Gate's disciples' arrival. Some disciples hurriedly broke away from their opponents and regrouped with the Fortune Gate's disciples, while others hurriedly sent messages to the White Cloud Monastery. We are Fortune Gate's disciples under Taoist Shao. In front of the lightning boat, a disciple in charge of sending messages shouted through voice transmission. Don't be anxious, get into formation and resist. We are here to rescue the White Cloud Monastery. You and I will attack from the inside and outside and defeat the devil army. Many thanks for the Fortune Gate's assistance. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was very happy. The devil army has besieged my White Cloud Monastery for more than 10 days. Our transmission array has been cut off by the devil army, so we can't send messages. The danger here cannot be transmitted to the meeting hall. We have no other Taoist to send messages. My White Cloud Monastery's protective grand formation is on the verge of collapse. No need to say more. The Fortune Gate's disciple acted as if he had been on the battlefield for a long time. He said through voice transmission, send a message to the White Cloud Monastery. Activate the protective grand formation at full power. We will attack from the inside and outside, and fight the enemy together. But the White Cloud Monastery's disciple was even happier. He said through voice transmission, I will send the message now, but I wonder, how many disciples did you send? I can also send a message to the sect. 90,000. The Fortune Gate's disciple answered without hesitation. 90,000? The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was shocked. He looked at the blood clouds behind the lightning bolt in disbelief and blurted out, how can there only be 90,000? There are close to 700,000 devil army besieging the White Cloud Monastery, and the devil army that attacked the Fortune Gate's disciples just now. Quickly send the message. The Fortune Gate's disciple's face was expressionless. He ignored the White Cloud Monastery's disciple's shock and ordered. Okay. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was slightly stunned and hurriedly turned around. It wasn't that the Fortune Gate's disciple was experienced on the battlefield, nor was it that the White Cloud Monastery's disciples were ignorant of war. It was because the Fortune Gate's disciples had come with the lingering prestige of victory. The White Cloud Monastery's disciples were scared out of their wits by the Devil Army. More importantly, the Fortune Gate's disciples had Xiaohua, a godlike existence in their hearts. They were not afraid of the Devil Army. My Fortune Gate's Grand Ascension Stage martial ancestor and 10 of his Grand Ascension Stage friends are in the formation. The Fortune Gate's disciple shouted again after the White Cloud Monastery's disciple turned around, as if he felt that his words were too cold. Grand Ascension Stage martial ancestor? The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was stunned when he heard this. He had never heard of a Grand Ascension Stage martial ancestor. However, the word Grand Ascension Stage sounded awe-inspiring. Moreover, the Fortune Gate's disciple's tone was arrogant. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple had already replaced the Grand Ascension Stage with the Tao Transformation Stage. He immediately sent a message. Tao Transformation Senior, Taoist Zhao's 90,000 Fortune Gate's disciples are here as reinforcements. There are also 10 Tao Transformation Stage experts. The 10 Tao Transformation Stage experts were naturally more important than the 90,000 disciples. As soon as the news reached the White Cloud Monastery, a rumbling sound came from the monastery. The white clouds that were originally suppressed by the blood formation emitted a dazzling brilliance. Then, the white clouds condensed into blocks that were several li in size. These blocks rapidly took shape. They were birds, beasts, mountains, rivers, and people. The white clouds released an indescribable pressure as they rushed towards the blood formation. Woo-woo! The blood formation was suddenly shattered by the white clouds, and hundreds of Taoist cultivators appeared from each of the white clouds. As soon as these cultivators rushed out, they immediately arranged themselves in a strange formation and activated their magic power to fight against the devils. Looking at the Devil Army, they were originally surging within the blood clouds. Now they also rushed out with a roar. They were divided into two groups that faced the White Cloud Monastery's disciples and the Fortune Gate's disciples. For a moment, the battle cries that had stopped for a while sounded again. Where are the Tao Transformation Stage seniors of the Fortune Gate? Juniors by Shan, by Shui, and by Ming are here to welcome the seniors. Between the white clouds, a rainbow flew out from the depths. 3 young Tao Sex cultivators appeared in front of the Devil Army with horsetail whisks in their hands. When they waved the horsetail whisks, the space within a few li was sealed. Rays of light flashed like clouds, and the devil generals within a few li were all killed and turned into powder. Taoist Master Xiao. Sun Jian looked at Xiaohua and said tentatively, "We should go out and meet the White Cloud Monastery's master." Xiaohua naturally understood Sun Jian's thoughts. He took out the Kunlun mirror. As the brilliance shook, the green-robed Xiaohua, the dragon bloodline Xiaohua, the bone-tempering Xiaohua, and the phoenix body Xiaohua flew out and landed on the thunder ship. The 4 clones did not conceal their strength and released their auras. Not only did they force the Devil Army to retreat, but the thunder ship's brilliance also shone brightly. Seeing this, Sun Jian nodded slightly. His figure flew out first, holding the 3-pointed double-edged sword in his hand. Xiaohua and the others flew behind him. The 6 experts flew out from the thunder ship and killed all the devil soldiers within 100 li. When they flew closer, Sun Jian cupped his hands and said, "This one is true sovereign Qingyu, Sun Jian. Greetings to the White Cloud Monastery's fellow immortals." Fellow immortals? The White Cloud Monastery's master Baishan was slightly stunned, but he did not ask too much. He returned the greeting and said, "This one is the White Cloud Monastery's master Baishan. Greetings to fellow immortal Sunday. May I know which one of you is the Fortune Gate's Taoist Master Xiao?" While the White Cloud Monastery's master was speaking, his gaze had already landed on Xiaohua, who was surrounded by his clones. "This is my Fortune Gate's Master Xiaohua, Taoist Master Xiao." Sun Jian moved to the side and said respectfully. Baishan hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior Baishan greets Taoist Master Xiao." The 2 cultivators beside him also hurriedly bowed and said, Juniors by Shui and by Ming greet Taoist Master Xiao. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeves and lifted the three of them up. He smiled and said, "There's no need to be overly courteous. It won't be too late to greet you after we kill the devil army." Taoist Master? Bai Shan looked at the four clones behind Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "These four seniors. They are this old man's good friends." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "They specialize in magic arts and are not good with words. They also don't like to make friends. You don't need to know their names." "Yes, this junior understands." Bai Shan hurriedly bowed to the four clones and looked at Xiao Hua. However, he was a little hesitant. He turned to look at his two junior brothers and said, "Taoist Master Xiao, the devil army is too powerful. My White Cloud Monastery had already planned to destroy everything. Since Senior has come to help, my White Cloud Monastery has a chance to survive. Although Senior's 90,000 disciples are brave, we have to face hundreds of thousands of devil soldiers. Even if the White Cloud Monastery and Fortune Gate work together, we may not be their match. In this junior's opinion, if we can use the Fortune Gate's flying ship to break the devil army's blood formation, my White Cloud Monastery will be able to escape from the devil army's formation." "Oh!" When Xiao Hua heard this, he didn't hesitate and pointed at Sun Jian and said, "This old man is only in charge of killing. All military matters are decided by true sovereign Qingyin." Bai Shan hurriedly looked at Sun Jian and asked, "What does fellow immortal Sun think?" "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."